Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the June 25th meeting of the Palm Springs Planning Commission. Report of posting of agenda, please, Mr. Evans.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. The agenda was posted here at City Hall in accordance with state and local procedures.
Thank you. The first item on our agenda is public comments. Anybody wishing to address the Commission on planning issues in the City of Palm Springs may come forward at this time. If you are here on an agenda item, whether it is a public hearing or just a regular agenda item, we would prefer that you hold your comments until the item is called. You may come forward at this time if you prefer. So anybody that wishes to speak?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Andrew Green, and I'm violating your request. I can't be here for that public hearing, so I wanted to be here on behalf of the Palm Springs Homeless Task Force to comment on the proposal for Vistacina and Sunrise for the medical facility and the housing. Though this has no component that is under our agenda anymore, though there is nothing connected with the Homeless Task Force, the fact that there would be housing, more low-income housing, and there would be enhanced medical services for people is something we think is important, and we feel like this is now something that the city should certainly be able to, well, not only live with, but it should be a very wonderful program for the city. And the Homeless Task Force, again, though all of our parts of it have been removed, we want to support this project as it goes forward. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else like to speak? Please come forward. As one person leaves, step right up.
Hi, I'm Sherry Diamond. I'm not really prepared with any set speech, but I just wanted to put on record that I'm from the Canyon South area on Bogart Trail, and with all the plans in the works for all the additional construction going on, I would like to say that we really need another access road into the Andreas Hills area. I lost my home, as did 350 people in Malibu in the fire. I lived through it, so I know what would happen if there's an emergency, and we only have one 2-lane road in and out of that area. So I'm not sure what can be done, but I would love to discuss it with somebody. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak? Excuse me, is there anybody else that wishes to speak?
Yes, I could.
Please come forward, sir. Just give us your name.
I'm Robert Keene. I own 2 condos at the Ranch Club. We were against the homeless part, but the revised arrangements is okay with me. I don't know about the board of the Ranch Club. They have their own minds, but I have mine too, and I okay the arrangements. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Would you please sign the clipboard? Excuse me? Would you please sign the clipboard right on the podium? Yes, sir. Is anybody else? Seeing none, we'll close the public comments. Our public hearing items are not scheduled until 2 o'clock, so we'll move down the agenda to architectural item number 9, which is case 3.2262, the application by Avalon Property Development for a major architectural approval and mitigated negative declaration for Paradise Self-Storage Facility located at 400 South San Rafael Road. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, Gabriel Diaz will give you the staff report on this project. The 2 items before you would be ordering the filing of a negative declaration and architectural approval. This project, I believe, meets all code requirements, so those are the only 2 actions before you today.
Thank you, Mr. Diaz.
Real turn on.
Thank you, Commissioner and Commissioners, Chairman. This site is just west of Indian. Indian runs this way, and then we got Radio Road and San Rafael. The The site is approximately 6.5 acre site, and the proposed square footage of the self-storage, which are these items here, here, and then we do have a manager's building, which is approximately 6,000 square feet, and the square footage for the self-storage facility area is about 107,000 square feet, and we have about 63 RV storage spaces. One of the issues here that we have is it's a right by zone project, and we do have an apartment building, residential here, and this is M1 zone, and according to our zoning code, when M1 abuts residential, you must have a 20-foot distance between, and a 6 foot or 8 foot high wall, and they are doing that, so everything's good there. The building height is 33 feet, and basically this is the architectural element here, and that's at a height of 33 feet. And you're about, I think, 35 feet from front property line setback, so the setbacks are fine. One of the discussions during our design review group was the massing of these walls. And design review asked that planning commission approve the walls. Design review wanted more of a shading feel to these walls. We have split block, and then we have regular concrete block. Reviewing through the plans, we have they come between 12 inch and 8 inch sporadically all over, so it does break it up. And for this neighborhood, it's a good addition to the neighborhood. Currently, the site is vacant, kind of full of debris and just junk. And this would be a nice addition to the neighborhood.
Gabriel, do we have proposals from design review that are part of our motion, or is that something that's already been agreed to by the applicant?
No. In our conditions is subject to the approval of the director.
All of the design review recommendations are incorporated into the plan or the conditions of approval. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to thank the applicant for really working on the design of the project. They've reworked it a couple of times to get it up to the standards of the community and the recommendation for approval from design review.
Very good, thank you. Any comments or questions, members of the commission? Ms. Brantz?
Ready for a motion.
Go ahead.
Okay, move approval of Avalon Property Development for a major architectural approval and mitigated negative declaration for Paradise Self-Storage Facility, subject to the conditions set forth.
Is there a second?
Second. Not taking my
Mr.
time.
Caffrey gets priority today.
Oh, come on now.
Anything further? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion carries. Carries unanimously. Next item, number 10, case 5.0952, application by Paul Shell for a final plan development district to construct a retail bed and breakfast development located at 803 North Palm Canyon Drive. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, I'll have to abstain. I have a conflict based on business proximity to the project.
Thank you, Mr. Grinch.
Mr. Chairman, I also have to abstain. The law firm with which I'm associated represents Mr. Shell.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. We have not been able to complete all of the staff's review and design review of this item. We recommend that you continue this item to your next meeting, and we should be ready then.
Don't leave.
All right. Chair would entertain then a formal motion to continue item number 10 to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Chairman, I'd make the motion to continue the meeting.
Second.
Moving right along here.
Motion by, who is that? Mr. Caffrey. Second by Ms. Conrad. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Next item, number 11, case 5.0804, application by Palm Springs Modern Homes for a final plan development district and final architectural plans only for the Tockwitz Villas located at the intersection of Museum Drive and Tockwitz Canyon Way.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be abstaining from this as I own a piece of property directly across the street.
Thank you, Ms.
As I
Conrad.
will as well, business relationship in the past.
Thank you. Staff report, please.
Thank you. This is the first item of the final plan development district that you're going to see in this season. The project was approved by the Planning Commission April 24, 2002, and by Council on July 17, 2002. Normally, a final plan development district includes site plans, architecture, landscape plans, grading, sign programs, street improvement plans. At this point, we are just bringing you the architectural elevations so that you could get a sense of what's coming up before you. These are the construction documents only, and we wanted to bring it to your attention at this point in order to allow the applicant to proceed into plan check. The Design Review Committee reviewed and approved this project on June 9th with really no additions or changes. Materials in the project include two-piece clay tile, smooth hand-troweled stucco, wooden doors, iron grillwork, true Dividolite windows. You will be seeing later in the season the remaining site plans, grading plans, landscape, irrigation and lighting, signs, and street improvement plans. The applicant is asking that you can approve this today and allow them to move into plan check. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Alex. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to this matter? If so, please come forward at this time. Give us your name and sign the clipboard before you leave.
My name is David Christian. I live at 15 Palomino here in Palm Springs. Pardon me. And I'm the architect on the project, and I'll be available in the audience if there are any questions related to the project. And we're excited to be here. We're really proud of it. And like I said, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Back to commission then. Any questions, comments? Mr. Schoenberger?
Just a quick comment. I was at the design review meeting when this was reviewed, and it was well received by design review, and looks like it's going to be a very nice project.
Any other comments? Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve case number 5.0804-PD-234 and TM 29077. Motion would be to approve as submitted.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Schoenberger, second by Mr. Grinch. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion carries unanimously. Good luck to you, Mr. Christian. Thank you. Next item is number 12, case 5.0909, application by Brad Corzin for review and approval of street improvement plans pursuant to the conditional use permit for incidental commercial uses located within a hotel containing less than 100 guest rooms at the Estrella Inn located at 415 South Bellardo. This was continued from June 11th.
Thank you.
Staff report, please.
This item has actually been trailing the original approval of the CUP. On February 26th, the Commission approved issuance of the CUP and a parking management program with conditions that the applicant submit detailed construction documents for site improvements and or any proposed alternatives that they may like the Commission to consider. To orient you with the site, the Cahuilla Road street frontage has a segment of what is considered by some to be sidewalk or what is considered by others to be a driveway approach. There are no links to the sidewalks to the north and south on that site on Cahuilla Road. There is segments of sidewalk in existence on the Bellardo Street frontage. On May 27th of this year, the Design Review Committee reviewed the proposed improvement plans, but due to a problem with noticing, the applicant and community members were not available. Subsequently, the Design Review Committee reviewed the plans again on June 7th. The Design Review Committee was of the opinion that sidewalks would be inappropriate along Cahuilla, and that existing sidewalks or driveway approaches adjacent to the project should be removed, and that a sidewalk would be necessary on Bellardo Road, and they were supportive of a concept of diagonal parking in concept. Earlier in the season, on May 7th, a community meeting was held at which a number of the residents and property owners in the historic tennis club neighborhood were able to attend. The issues that were addressed at that meeting include the functioning of Bellardo as a commercial street where sidewalks may be appropriate, the imposition of angled or diagonal parking on Bellardo, the nature of Cahuilla Street being a more residential neighborhood, or the perception that it's a more residential street carrying lower volumes of traffic, and questioning the need for sidewalks along that street. Also, that the nature of bay parking that would be included would probably be a decorative parking, and that landscaping along Cahuilla Road would be simplified, less formal, and using a desert palette, which is a departure from the landscape program employed within the Estrella. In looking at the general plan policy, Cahuilla and Bellardo are both designated as collectors. So staff has had some difficulty with the widespread desire to eliminate sidewalks along Cahuilla in conformance with the wishes and desires of the residential base in the area. Clearly, the area will serve as increased capacity in traffic as the Fashion Plaza is redeveloped and as the neighborhoods become increasingly dense in the future years. So we have a recommendation that's not really a popular recommendation in terms of the applicant or many of the surrounding residents. You've received a number of pieces of correspondence on this matter, and I believe that a number of residents would like to address the subject. What I will do is just briefly go over the recommendations and then show you the ramifications on the board, if I may. We're recommending that on Cahuilla Road, a 5-foot sidewalk, decorative concrete, be constructed from the northern edge of the northernmost driveway to the southern edge of the southernmost driveway, which will be approximately 400 feet. We're also recommending that on Bellardo, there be a colored 5-foot sidewalk along the entire frontage, and the applicant really doesn't have a difficulty with that recommendation. We're also recommending, however, that diagonal parking not be allowed on Bellardo, and the applicant will want to address that issue in greater detail. The Design Review Committee, at its second meeting on this subject, decided that there should be no sidewalk along Cahuilla, and that the driveway approach should be eliminated, and that should be replaced by an 8-foot wide DG, or decomposed granite walkway, and a pathway which would be constructed behind a row of street trees so that it would actually provide some buffer to those pedestrians that would be using the sidewalk and pull them away from the flow of traffic. And that there would be, instead of a curb, there would be a formal concrete edge to the roadway, essentially a depressed or a flat curb. And that would be for the entire 520-foot length along Cahuilla Road. The Design Review Committee also recommended that 5-foot wide sidewalks along the entire Bellardo Road be constructed. What I'd like to do is, I know this is kind of a confusing topic, so I'd like to approach the boards and kind of walk you through it. We have a number of drawings here. On the bottom is South Bellardo. We have Cahuilla, and then another one on Bellardo, and I'll walk you through them. This drawing on Kauai shows the applicant's desire for decomposed granite path through this area, a less formal landscape program with shade trees, the bay parking that you're aware of, and then some divisions in these areas and some additional parking lot shading. On Bellardo, the applicant has suggested the use of a diagonal parking for a portion, essentially the northern 150 feet or northern third of the property, adjacent to this building. Staff is concerned that the width of the road may not permit safe turn and parking movements if you were to utilize diagonal parking here and then need to reverse, do a three-point, and get out of there. It is an interesting traffic pattern and parking pattern that has worked successfully elsewhere in the city, most notably Arenas. But because it's proposed only as a mid-block section, we do have a problem with it as kind of not a universally understood pattern, but kind of an anomaly in a mid-block setting. What I would like to do now is kind of answer any questions you may have, also provide engineering staff to answer any questions that you have. And then the applicant would like to make a presentation, and I think a number of community members would like to weigh in on the subject.
Alex, Alex, let me ask you, is this decomposed granite walkway that's being proposed on this drawing located in the same place that staff is suggesting a sidewalk would go? So are all we talking about as a difference between what we see in this diagram and what staff is proposing is the composition of the sidewalk? All right.
Right location.
And but it's same location, and where is the street, where does the street begin on this diagram?
It's probably better to refer to the engineering documents. Thank you. We have edge of pavement depicted here as this line. And there's an unimproved area within the right-of-way. And right here, southern, this is the eastern edge of the pavement, so this is the other side of the street, the residential side, edge of pavement. And pavement here, and property line is depicted right here. So what they're showing on this document is decomposed granite in this area, concrete, which would be an apron to this bay parking, the existing apron to the bay parking, which is perceived by many to be an existing sidewalk. Then in this area, they're showing, again, concrete, decomposed granite, concrete, removing the existing surface and decomposed granite, and concrete and decomposed granite. One of the reasons that we're concerned about this is by creating a walkway area where you have the decomposed granite, then concrete, then DG, then concrete, back and forth, provides an irregular surface, and we are concerned about, as always, the safety of pedestrians. There certainly is a desire among many of the assembled here today to eliminate all sidewalks along this project frontage and throughout other areas in the neighborhood. So it is something to consider.
Thank you.
All right, before we open up to questions, why don't we just invite anybody that wishes to speak on this matter to come forward? Why don't we start by the applicant's representative, and then we'll open it up to any other comments that might be out there.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask, for the sake of expediency, when the public speaks, I particularly would like to hear about what they think in terms of decomposed granite versus colored concrete, and do they understand that the city's proposal is not for curbs but for swales, basically? And so do they understand the difference between that? And if they can speak to that in their public comments, I think it would be incredibly helpful, because I don't see it in any of the letters. and it makes a huge difference.
All right, we have no problem with that, and might I ask staff, as Ms. Conrad accurately stated the staff position, that you are recommending a concrete sidewalk along the full length of Kauai, and that you are showing some kind of a rolled gutter as opposed to a vertical vernacular
We've
gutter?
actually not asked for a swale. That implies a rolled curb, but we're asking for a flat or a depressed curb.
Same height as the road.
Essentially, it projects about 1.5 inches to 2 inches above the edge of the roadway.
Very good.
Max.
Thank you. Go ahead, please give us your name before you comment.
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Jackson. I am Vice President of Design and Construction for the Core Group, which owns the Estrella Hotel, and I'd like to speak on behalf of our proposal. One very quick comment is the original conditional use permit called for a 6-inch high curb the entire length, or the non-driveway length, of Kauai, and so it's through working with the neighbors, planning, and design review that we've gotten to a more flat curb. So I think some of what you're seeing in terms of the communication is based upon the previous conditional use permit requirements, and now we've moved slightly beyond that, and we thank the city for that. Basically, I just want to speak today to what we're proposing as far as the curb and sidewalk conditions and the road conditions along both Belardo and Kauai. Our property sits at the edge of a commercial zone. I think we're all in agreement that the Belardo side of our property is quite notably commercial. It fronts on the backside of businesses on Palm Canyon. There's a considerable amount of traffic. There are, generally speaking, sidewalks on both sides of the street. The Kauai side, however, we front a neighborhood that is almost entirely single-family homes. And south of Belardo, there are virtually no curbs and sidewalks in that neighborhood, and it has a very, very consistent feel. And we're trying to respond to that. We're trying to allow our property to act as a transition or a bridge between the strongly commercial area to our east and the very strongly residential area to our west. So what we're actually proposing for the two streets varies precisely because of those conditions. Along Belardo, we have no argument with extending the existing curb and sidewalk that exists along 2/3 of our property all the way to the northern edge. We would like it to be 5 feet. That's reflected in the current conditions. It simply mirrors what's on the other side of the street and is appropriate to the traffic patterns. In conversation with our neighbors and our civil engineer, the idea of diagonal parking along that stretch came up. It was intriguing for a number of reasons. It does not take up any more of the roadway than the parallel parking, and our civil engineer is here. He can speak to the particulars of that issue. Plus, instead of the 8 existing parking spaces simply being hopped out into the road, it allows for between 12 and 14 parking spaces. And in working with the neighborhood and discussions with planning and in some of the comments we heard from the Planning Commission, parking in the residential neighborhood is a concern. In fact, it's the basis for our conditional use permit, where we were actually intensifying the use on our property and parking became a concern. So the sidewalk and the curb there we're completely on board with. We simply would like you to entertain the idea of diagonal parking. Along Kauai, we have no objection whatsoever to a walk surface there. We're proposing, and this is in conjunction with the neighbors, to provide a surface that's decomposed granite. I don't know how familiar people are with that. It looks like a packed sand surface, but because of the incorporation of chemical binders in it, it's actually very, very firm and durable. It does absorb water, which is a benefit over concrete. It also doesn't pick up as much heat, which is a benefit over concrete. Again, our civil engineer can speak to the particular properties and its wear. I know from personal experience, I live across from a park back in Santa Monica where all the pathways are decomposed granite. They get traffic from police vehicles, service vehicles, golf carts, very heavy pedestrian use, bicycle use, and rollerblade use, as well as getting intense storms off the Pacific with wind and rain, and they haven't, at least to my eye, over the last 4 years, appreciably eroded. We would propose that the entire length of our property, and based upon the discussions with the Design Review Committee last week, the drawings are just slightly out of date. We're actually proposing the entire length of our property to decomposed granite, including the driveway approaches that currently exist. So there'd be a very, very consistent surface off there. It would be regraded so that instead of having a sloped driveway approach, we would have a slope to a flat portion. That would facilitate pedestrian access, pedestrian movement across there. We are proposing the street trees, which would help protect that. We understand there's some traffic calming measures intended for this stretch. The street trees will help provide a barrier so that people don't go around the traffic calming measures. And as Alex mentioned, we do propose a continuous 2-foot wide concrete strip at the edge of the road, which would serve a number of purposes. It would facilitate drainage. It protects the edge of the road by giving us a hard surface, so there's not the tendency to crumble you get when you have asphalt against dirt. And it helps provide a firm edge for the decomposed granite up against it. I would love to respond to any of your questions. I think whatever other comments you can get for the community first would be appropriate. Thank you.
Very good. Anybody else wishing to speak? See several. Please come forward, and as one speaker steps down, please follow up. We have quite a number of public hearings today, so time is of the essence.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Hamlin, and I want to speak about Cahuilla between Baristo and Ramon and what's there right now, and why we feel the design review solution is the best for the neighborhood and the city, and why the staff report is misleading. So I'd like to address that quickly by what's there. On the west side of the street is single-family homes. I have the pictures if any of you would like to see them. There are no sidewalks. The streetscape is rock, dirt, and asphalt. On the east side of the street, there are 5 properties. There's the Women's Club, there's the Villa Serena, there's the Villa Estrella Inn, and there's the Rehab Center, and there is the Ingleside Inn. 4 of those 5 properties are asphalt and gravel. The Estrella Inn is a combination, as you've heard today, dirt, grass. So what the design review proposed is a continuity there of a soft surface, which was mentioned earlier there, possibly DG, where you would have the transition between each property. What is problematic in the city's proposal here, we have all through Exhibit A, which is very problematic, 6-inch curbs, 5-foot wide sidewalks, totally out of character with the neighborhood. That this is basically should be considered a protected historic part. This Cahuilla is the gateway to our neighborhood, which is why we want it to remain so. And we're many neighbors, hopefully, who are here today and who have hopefully sent in letters who are in agreement with this, and property owners. And if you'd like to look at the pictures, I think it'd be pretty illuminating if you haven't been down this block of the road to see how a disjoint condition would be created with the conditions that are enumerated in Exhibit A of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have any pictures you'd like to submit, please hand them to our clerk. We'll be distributing.
Only if you're going to look at them.
Any pardon?
Only if you're going to look at them.
Please come forward, sir.
Thank you. My name is Martin Hollister. My wife and I, Agnes, live at 432 South Monte Vista Drive, and our family owns the vacant lot directly behind us, which is an R1 lot, which is fronts on the west side of Cahuilla. Our neighbors to the south, the Knotts, also have a home on Monte Vista and the vacant lot behind them, which fronts on the west side of Cahuilla. My comment is that Cahuilla is really part of the historic tennis club area, and it's where people stroll around and have come to believe that sidewalks are not necessary, that there's no safety concern. There's never been a safety concern, and it would certainly conform to the neighborhood to not have sidewalks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hollister.
Good afternoon, Mr. Commissioner. My name is Dan Reese. I'm at 73733 Fred Waring Drive. I'm the civil engineer for the project. Just like to touch upon a few brief points regarding Cahuilla Road. As you've heard, we're trying to work with the homeowners, the city, as well as the Estrella Inn to come up with a balanced design that we feel is appropriate for the area. Regarding the decomposed granite, as you've heard, it's used in park areas successfully. They can add binders to it, add color to it. It's a very durable surface. We feel that it's an appropriate compromise between the city's requirements as well as what the homeowners would like to see. As far as the edge treatment for the street, we would like to revise condition number 39. Instead of doing a street replacement, the street center line is essentially almost all the way on the other side of the street. Revise that to a 1-foot saw cut, install a 2-foot wide concrete swale, which it exists north of the project, also in some areas along some of the other roads. It looks quite nice. Regarding Bellardo Road, we'd like the commission to at least consider the diagonal parking concept. It solves a couple issues. One, it increases the amount of parking that's available in the area. And two, at some point, if that street is ever widened, you will be taking out a good portion of the existing curb and gutter that we might be installing in any case. So with that, that concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else who wishes to speak on this matter? Back to commission then. Ms. Grants?
I have a question. Alex, question. As I recall, at one of the last meetings when we were discussing this project, there was supposed to be a parking management program put into place. Has that ever been done?
Yes, that was brought back on February 26th.
Okay, then maybe I'm not sure what the parking management program is and why there's such a concern about the parking if there is a program in place.
Well, the parking management program is really not the issue today. We were able to craft a parking management program which provided and met all of the parking requirements on site, and they were able to also secure additional parking off-site through a lease agreement. But they did meet the needs of the project and the conditional use permit requirements for parking on site.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Just a couple of comments and then a question for engineering. I think very strongly that there needs to be a sidewalk of some kind, protected sidewalk along this area. I think a mistake was made, mistakes have been made in the past in not having sidewalks along there. And if we can get them, I think we should try to get them as we can. Even though the residents to the west may not feel there's a need for sidewalks, I think Cahuilla is going to get more and more traffic. It's going to be a busier street as time goes by rather than getting quieter, certainly, particularly when the Fashion Plaza opens up and more traffic is on Bellardo. It's going to spill to Cahuilla. And I think it's not a good condition there now where there are stretches of no sidewalk and people have to walk in the street, particularly if there are parallel cars parked. People are walking right out in the street. And so I think there needs to be a sidewalk, and we ought to get sidewalks on the east side of Cahuilla when and how, whenever we can. A question for engineering and also, I guess, for staff. I was concerned about, one concern I had was that we have a sidewalk that is part concrete and then decomposed granite and concrete so that you have a variation in the composition of the sidewalk as you go along it. And from what I understand from the applicant, that concern is not there now in that they're proposing a decomposed granite sidewalk the whole length. Do I understand that? Does staff understand that?
I heard that for the first time today.
Okay.
And we would object to that.
All right.
because this is all relating to engineering issues, we struggled with how to address what the neighborhood wants. And if you look at what's proposed, it will be a substantial change to what's there now. What's there now is basically undeveloped along that frontage. What they're proposing is a long row of bay parking and new driveway approaches. So in order to construct that, you need one long driveway approach. And you have to keep in mind that this is within the public right-of-way on a general plan street that the city has to maintain and is liable for. So our trade back was to try to blend and disguise the concrete for the neighbors was to require the sidewalk but allow a colored concrete. We would discourage from having any decomposed granite. And we recognize that there's no sidewalk, north and south of here. And for the most part, that sidewalk will serve the purpose of accessing those parking spaces for the people that are using that development. For the future, if we ever build sidewalk, it will then connect to that.
Well, the other comment I had is that I'm not in favor of diagonal parking, and I am sympathetic to the concerns of the neighbors on the Cahuilla side, although I do feel strongly that a sidewalk is needed there, and I don't think it's going to be out of character with the neighborhood to the west, particularly to have a sidewalk on the east side of Cahuilla. And on the diagonal parking, I just think it's a mistake to have diagonal parking in the middle of a block. It's a different situation over on Arenas. You have stop signs on each side of that diagonal parking. You can see it. You stop. You see it. But if people are whizzing along Baristo, and there are people who travel along that roadway at a fairly, it's not wide enough to really go too fast, but people go fast along there. And there's going to be more traffic on Baristo, particularly.
Bilardo?
Or Bilardo, on Bilardo, particularly. So I think that a mid-block diagonal parking situation is not a good one.
Any other comments, Mr. Caffrey?
Yes, well, if I didn't chime in for the last time on this one, I'd be remiss. So, as usual, I disagree with engineering's conclusion on sidewalks in this neighborhood, and several other neighborhoods that we've seen throughout the years. I think that the decomposed granite is a good solution. I'm not sure about the flat curb, though. And maybe, Alex, you could explain that inch and a half, whatever.
I think what he meant was, like I said, if you look what's proposed is one long driveway approach, which in a driveway approach is depressed curb and gutter. And so that's essentially what the intent of that condition is. Where there's not a driveway approach, there would be a full 6-inch curb. At least that's what was recommended by engineering. And the reason for that is you don't want to have decomposed granite abutting up to the street, because it'll end up in the street. And you need to have it contained somehow behind a curb so that the street sweepers don't have to sweep it up all the time.
And what happens when they resurface a street then? Does that become a maintenance problem, or are we looking at this? Because what I have pictured in my mind is a strip of concrete, 6 inches wide, all the way down this street frontage that's a little bit higher than the street itself.
No, the gutter would be flush with the pavement, and then it'd be a regular 2-foot wide gutter with a depressed curb behind it. It's all poured monolithically.
Okay, I understand. Well, I certainly like that idea better than the concrete down Cahuilla. Several times we've had this discussion, and maybe that's something that the commission can take up at a later date, is getting a plan in place for sidewalks in neighborhoods that don't have them, so that we don't have this constant thing with engineering. I think it'd be a good idea. And come to an agreement on what they should be, and maybe a general design parameter for each neighborhood. Otherwise, I'm fine with it, and I agree with Mr. Schoenberger on the diagonal parking.
Ms. Conrad?
Jerry, you're not going to talk?
Go ahead, Mr. Branch.
I'm sort of in between. When we talk about decomposed granite, if this is going to be a city-maintained sidewalk. You put concrete in, it's there, it well maintains itself if you keep it clean, fix the cracks. Decomposed granite, even with an admix, the additive added to it, is something you're going to have to maintain periodically, grading. Looking at resources, the city's laying people off, budgets are tighter. Whether we need a sidewalk there right now, probably not, but I know as you go to Melvin's and other places to park and you have to back out, I'll go along with the parking. I don't like the idea of the parking there, but I think if we're going to do any type of a pathway, it needs to be maintained sidewalk. Colored concrete, whether we can come up with something that, you know, it looks like a good design from engineering, but whether we need it now, I don't know if there's a way to put a condition in. At some point, we need a sidewalk. Whether we need it right now, I don't know. I don't think we need decomposed granite, though.
Ms. Conrad.
Okay, well, I've spent quite a bit of time studying this up and down both sides, and I'll just start out by saying, while the idea of diagonal parking seems attractive, I think it's inappropriate for Bellardo. Unless you wanted to look at a much bigger section of Bellardo, and I think that that's beyond the scope of this project, and I'm sure that the applicant does not want to go there. I wonder if Marcus, to me, I think that the neighborhood concerns are probably satisfied by the depressed curb, and the only reason that we have a Exhibit A that talks about curb and gutter is because of the applicant last summer accepting that and being in such a hurry that they wanted to get an approval, that they accepted that without realizing what they were doing, even though they were admonished multiple times to look at those conditions. So I think the depressed curb is a good solution for Kauai. And I think that a consistent surface up and down the entire frontage of this property is a really important idea. And since they want to have bay parking and driveway access, it seems to me that the only solution is going to be concrete, which surprises me. But I think that the neighborhood concerns are satisfied by the depressed gutter. It alarms me to hear you say that there would be 6-inch curbs if we had decomposed granite, which is exactly at odds with what the neighborhood is trying to achieve. So if it's a 2-foot band of concrete with a colored concrete, basically driveway into the bay parking, and it's consistent for the entire length, I think that would satisfy the concerns of the neighborhood much better than up and down decomposed granite and a lot of driveways. And there's a lot of driveways. So maybe you can clarify what exactly it's going to be. And I like the idea of the trees out there, but I guess they won't be there if we choose concrete rather than decomposed granite.
Well, that's the problem is that you have this gaps in between the driveways and the bay parking where they're proposing landscaping, where you go from concrete to decomposed granite to concrete. So if you wanted to do something like you're suggesting, doing a consistent long driveway approach, that would be fine. That would be consistent with what the neighborhood wants to soften the look of all concrete, especially if we're colored.
Well, yeah, I'm not satisfied that this is the best solution yet. And we're only here going through this multiple times because of the speed with which we had to deal with it last summer. And so I think that it needs to go back to the drawing board again. And I think I'm echoing what design review had to say, it sounds like to me. But maybe all parties need to sit down at the table and come up with a workable solution before we impose one on them.
Mr. Caffrey.
Yeah, I'm confused now, because I thought we were talking about no concrete driveway approaches that we would have.
They're all going to be concrete driveway approaches. There's a whole bunch of driveways there. Whether you choose decomposed granite or concrete, there's a bunch of driveways to get into these bay parking.
Yes, but I thought design review recommended decomposed granite instead of, so that it was all decomposed granite all the way across the frontage. Is that not correct?
Well, it's difficult in thinking of it as a monolithic frontage, and it may be useful for me to reapproach the boards and kind of walk through the summary of design review.
Sure, why don't you show us exactly what design review is suggesting? And one of the first questions that Mr. Schoenberger asked when he was up there is the area of the sidewalk that staff is proposing in exactly the same place as the decomposed granite walkway that design review.
Yes.
And you said yes.
The answer to that is correct. So in looking at the alternative Kauai, we have an edge of pavement right here,
that goes to the parking apron that's existing, and then the existing bay parking. Then we also have the parking lot here, the apron, and then back to the existing edge of pavement. The sidewalk location that is being requested by staff is actually not at the edge of right-of-way as in most conditions, but it's pulled back a number of feet. It's illustrated here by the location of the decomposed granite, and it's depicted in the same location here as the decomposed granite. So to answer Commissioner Schoenberger's question, the sidewalk location is not intended to be at the edge of the right-of-way, curb, gutter, sidewalk, but it would be a curb and gutter, and then a landscape planter in these areas, and then the decomposed granite. Or sidewalk as the condition is being asked for by engineering and planning. In terms of the Design Review Committee's recommendation, it was DG, and we understood this to be concrete as right behind this new bay parking, concrete, concrete. This would be removal of existing concrete surface and put back into a decomposed granite configuration. Yes, and then concrete, decomposed granite, concrete, DG, DG, concrete, DG.
We all agree that we didn't want that.
Alex, tell me what's happening on Bellardo, on Bellardo. Nobody's discussed Bellardo at all. Everybody keeps discussing Cahuilla, and I think it is just as important what a decision is made on Bellardo.
In terms of Bellardo, the applicant is understanding and I guess is consistent with engineering's conditions for the improvements along Bellardo.
Okay.
And with the exception of the issue of the diagonal parking, I think the applicant is comfortable with Bellardo, so we really haven't focused on attention to that detail. What the applicant would like is essentially to remove the hard concrete paving surface between the bay parking all the way back to the edge of the right-of-way. So this would be removed, this would be removed, this would be removed, this and this, these two eliminated, because these are proposed parking, and this would all be DG. So you'd have a roadway surface, some planting area here, some planting area here, here, and here. Then behind that, the decomposed granite walkway surface, and then the bay parking and parking lot, bay parking and two parking lots.
With no driveways that are cement.
Right, you would have edge of pavement. You would have, behind the edge of pavement, you would have what we call a flat curb, which is essentially something to maintain the edge of the asphalt.
Yeah, but Marcus thinks that's going to be a 6-inch curb.
Ms. Conrad, I wonder if you
No.
could make your comments into the microphone.
It would be a flat curb.
It would be a flat
It would be a
curb, is
flat
that
curb,
correct?
yeah. And essentially, it's designed to, there's a lip on it because it's designed to convey water.
That's the understanding I had, and I like that idea.
And it's depicted right here with essentially just that little lip. But the applicant would like to have this removed.
Thank you, Alex. Mr. Jackson, I know that you wanted to comment. Has Alex correctly stated what your proposal is, or
I think where Alex ended up correctly states our proposal, and I apologize for any confusion, but we're basically talking about the road edge, a continuous concrete strip for the length of the property, and then decomposed granite back to the parking stalls.
For the length of the property.
Correct.
Thank you. Marcus, I had a question. Can you particularly state exactly what the disadvantages from your from engineering's perspective on driving across the decomposed granite going into the bay parking? If I understand, that's part of engineering's objection.
There's no way to maintain it.
And it requires maintenance. Is that your position?
Yes.
Okay. And Doug, you wanted to comment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I'd strongly advise that you not allow, bay parking to be serviced by driving over decomposed granite, no matter how you start it. It may look good for a few years, but, you're going to have a situation, and I did make the comments to design review, that you can make decomposed granite with additives, ADA compliant, a very stable surface, but it's still slick, still has loose material on top. And every time a car goes in or out, it's going to track that into the street and back out, just as we have in other places with the sand. But I tell you, I don't think it would be a good idea to have cars coming in on an angle, turning their wheels as they're coming into the bay parking spaces. If you want to make the sidewalk area decomposed granite, I know it's not what engineering is comfortable with. It's probably not the best material, but the decomposed granite, could be made for a sidewalk, and it would probably work reasonably well, but we would not want to maintain it. We'd want the private property owner to maintain it. We've done decomposed granite in certain areas, and it's been done in the desert, but it's areas that are highly maintained, and it's privately maintained as opposed to a public improvement.
Thanks. Thanks for clarifying that. That kind of had been my understanding based on prior descriptions we've had on other projects. And I just kind of wanted to comment with regard to this being the sort of the gateway to the tennis club area where there is kind of an absence of curbs. I think that this is consistent with the way we've approached other gateway areas. For example, moving into the movie colony, we dealt with this issue on Mira Leste across from the park, where we had gutters and sidewalks from the school all the way to the south. But then on the west side of Mira Leste, as the entrance to the movie colony, we just removed that where it wasn't needed for flood control or drainage issues. And I think it even though I kind of resisted that at first, I was happy with what the commission did and how it looks, and it is a transition, and I think that the tennis club will still be able to maintain that feel that they have enjoyed. But I join with the comments of the other commissioners that there will be increased traffic. People do park there. It's more and more people park there just on Thursday nights, and people are walking in the street. More and more people will, there'll be more and more use of that. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Grinch?
A question on the landscape strip from the curb to the sidewalk. What's the width of this and what's proposed plant material?
Believe it's 8 feet.
It's wide, okay.
It's adequate for an understory of low shrubs and also for trees to create a streetscape. But the design review committee was concerned that we not load up too much plant material in there because they wanted to transition to more of a native or desert type of landscaping. Yeah, we do have the landscape materials on the plan here, and I can kind of walk you through those if it's okay.
Who's going to maintain the landscaping there?
That's on-site landscaping maintained by the property owner.
So why couldn't they maintain the DG as well?
I guess I'll make a comment because I've dealt with DG, and I'll go along with what Doug said. Plus, again, it's a product that it's not concrete. You can make it as hard as concrete, but as traffic goes across it, there's some movement off the top. It's never going to happen. You're not going to get consistent maintenance of it, and I think that we're creating a liability for the city to consider it. I'm against it. If we're going to put a pathway in, it needs to be out of concrete.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve application 5.0909, subject to the recommendations of staff regarding the sidewalks on Belardo and Cahuilla and the diagonal parking on Belardo.
Not be allowed.
Not be allowed.
Would not be allowed.
I'll second.
That's consistent with staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Schoenberger, second by Mr. Grinch. Any further comments?
So what is the configuration of Cahuilla that you're
Consistent with staff's recommendation that it be a concrete,
With a depressed curb?
Yes.
And you're going to remove all the driveway material? It's just going to be one consistent 2-foot depressed curb for carrying water, and then a colored concrete sidewalk?
That's correct.
Anything further? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
No.
Motion carries 5-1. All right, let's go back to our public hearings then. And I know we have quite a number of people in the audience on public hearing item number 4, so let's jump down to that. That's case 5.0934, application by Desert AIDS Project for a plan development district in lieu of a change of zone and general plan amendment in order to facilitate the construction of the Desert AIDS Project Health and Housing Complex located at the southwest corner of Vistachino and Sunrise Way. Staff report, are there any?
Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict.
Yeah, I was
I
gonna say-
manage property adjacent to the proposed project.
Mr. Granton, is there another conflict on that?
Mark.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. Matthews is not here. All right, staff report, please.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. This is an item that, as the commission well knows, and most of the people that are in attendance recall, had a different life. It's a revised project. I think the revised project has responded to most of the neighborhood concerns and the concerns that the city council, expressed at their public hearing. The project has been scaled back. It's got a little bit different flavor on the housing, different components for the county family care facility. There are some revisions that Jing Yu will go through in her presentation. You've got some written correspondence, Mr. Chairman, and maybe as Jing completes her presentation, I'll come back and make some comments on some of the issues that may affect conditions of approval prior to opening the public hearing. Jing?
Thanks, Doug. There's 2 actions before you today. Primarily, the first one is a general plan amendment to redesignate about 4.5 acres from P to M15. That's in this area here for the purposes of facilitating the transitional housing units. And secondly, Plan Development District 281 in lieu of a change of zone. The purpose of that is to reconcile the split zoning on the property, which is P and R2, to obviously allow these mix of medical and residential uses. And also because of the layout of the site, you have some of the residential uses located in areas that are zoned professional. So that's the justification for the PD in lieu of a change of zone. Those are the 2 main actions. The justification for the general plan amendment is the fact that to look at the surrounding land uses, you have a church on this side, single-story senior housing, multifamily condos, a professional office building on this side. You got commercial uses all around, and over in this direction towards the east is also a preschool, gas station. Certainly the professional and the multifamily residential uses are consistent with what is already existing in the neighborhood. With regards to the components of the project, there's the existing Desert AIDS Project building, which is in this area. That's a medical office facility. The new components are a 31,422 square feet family care center for the exclusive use of the Riverside County Department of Public Health, and also 85 units of transitional housing in this location. That's broken down to 36 studio units, 42 one-bedroom and 7 two-bedrooms, total expected occupancy of about 141 persons. There are no modifications being proposed by the applicant to the property development standards. Everything is right by zone. In terms of the parking, that was an issue the last time that the project was viewed. That has been modified by the applicant. Basically, they're over parked by about 25 spaces now in terms of the residential and the medical use. The housing itself is targeted towards individuals with living with HIV/AIDS and their families only. And the land uses, for the housing and for the family care center are actually tied to multiple agreements between the applicant and the city, and also the California Tax Credit Allocation Committee. So it would be very difficult, once those terms are set, in order to change them. With regards to the site layout, just to go over the setbacks. In terms of the housing, it's 25 feet from Vista Chino, 15 feet from the west property line, and about at a minimum of 62 feet from the single story, and also quite a distance from the multifamily to the south. The architect this time, they've taken great lengths to try and be sensitive to the neighborhood, especially in the mix of 1 and 2 story. You can see in the legend here, the purple are the 2 story, yellow are the 1 story. They've tried to concentrate most of the 2 story out towards Vista Chino, and also in the family care center, it's only partially 2 story in the middle. Most of it is 1 story. That's due to the elimination of a lot of office space on the top. Again, that's for the exclusive use of Riverside County, and there's no extra office space available to be leased out. That basically concludes my review of the plans. There's the floor plan for the first and second floor of the family care center, and also conceptual elevations available. Those are only preliminary. This did go to design review on Monday, and design review did approve the site plan and the elevations in concept, with the understanding that obviously this is a preliminary plan development district, and final plans will be presented at a later date, depending on Commission's action today. Thanks.
Thank you, Jane. Do we have conceptual elevations with regard to the housing, or is that just the public areas?
We do not actually. That's only for the family care center is what I see up there right now. We don't have it for the housing yet.
So that'll come back to us at a later date?
That's correct.
Any questions of staff before we open the public hearing? I'm sorry? Mr. Evans, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. One of the issues that was raised in one of the letters that you have is the issue of whether or not there should be a 6 or an 8 foot high wall around the subject property. When this project had the components that were in the first proposal, particularly the facility that would draw in people that needed support for food, which would also bring in homeless people, we felt that an 8 foot high wall, and then in certain areas an 8 foot high fence would be appropriate. In taking a look at this, we really view this as a pretty traditional development project, a residential project with a specific target group, an office complex specifically targeted towards medical, and we typically don't have a lot of problem with relationships between properties. One of the comments is, could it be conditioned so that the existing walls be raised to 8 feet? Unless those existing walls were actually developed with the footings and the reinforcement for an 8 foot high wall, you can't add to them. It would be virtually impossible because you'd have to redo the footings. You may have to redo the internal support structure of the wall. So once you have a 6 foot high garden wall, it's very, very difficult to engineer that to add additional blocks to it. The wind load that we deal with is pretty sizable, and you just can't easily add block to a wall like that. I know the applicant would prefer a 6 foot high wall. That's traditionally what we recommend in this type of relationship, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background on the issue of 6 versus 8, and then particularly adding blocks to an existing garden wall, that's very difficult. You'd really have to build an 8 foot high wall next to the 6 foot high wall to give that same type of barrier. But Mr. Chairman, I think Jing did a very good job of going through the project. We've given you a staff report. We'll certainly try to answer your questions and the issues that come up during the hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. With that, we'll open the public hearing. Anybody wishing to address the commission on this matter, please come forward. Give us your name and sign the clipboard. We are going to limit the comments to 5 minutes, and the timer will be counting down, and we ask you to try to conform your comments within that time frame. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm John Brown. I'm the Executive Director of Desert AIDS Project, and we are happy to be back before you with this revised project that is much more clearly focused. I want to acknowledge the neighbors surrounding this project for all of their assistance and input in making this a project that in fact is more compatible for the neighborhood. Desert AIDS Project has always prided itself as a good neighbor and wants to continue to be just that as we develop more services for people who are in need. Our main focus all along in this collaboration has been developing more housing for people living with AIDS and HIV. Currently, the HOPWA, which is Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, for Riverside County, the waiting list for HOPWA closed with 75 people from the eastern Riverside County area waiting to get into some sort of housing. And the primary reason they're waiting is because there just is no housing available. At the Casa San Miguel de Allende in Cathedral City, which has 39 single resident units, there are typically anywhere from 15 to 20 people waiting to get into those units as well. So we're not anticipating any problem at all getting these units filled. I do want to just point out that the housing is not transitional. It's supportive long-term housing, which means the people living with AIDS and HIV who move in there are going to be able to live there as long as they want to live there and as long as they follow the strict rules and guidelines that are part of that housing program. One of the other things I do want to point out is that the addition of the 1 and 2 bedroom units is very important because right now the only housing opportunities we have for persons living with AIDS and HIV here in the Coachella Valley are single resident occupant units. And when you're talking about a mother that might have a couple of children, those aren't appropriate. You need to have the 1 and 2 bedroom units, and this brings a very important resource to our community. Again, I'm here to answer any questions you may have. I also want to let you know that the Director of Public Health Services for the County of Riverside is here if you have any questions about the Family Care Center. And again, I also want to thank the Planning Department of the City of Palm Springs for all their terrific work on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Van Etten, 1379 Barrymore Place in Palm Springs. In your package, you have a letter that I wrote, which also contains the paragraph that Mr. Evans was referring to. I would briefly like to read the 3 points that we had there and make some additional comments on them. On the basis of the presentations coordinated by the Planning Department and the text of the above referenced application by Desert AIDS Project dated June 25, 2003, the majority of the neighbors I have talked to will support the revised application as long as a few items are satisfactorily addressed. The first item was the one that Doug just discussed, and I stated on page 7 of the application, the last paragraph states, quote, "The new project design reflects greater sensitivity to the neighborhood, and the applicant has voluntarily implemented measures such as a 6-foot-high wall on the site plan along with security lighting and cameras. The text of the original application and several public meetings indicated that these walls would be 8 feet high. We would like to see the Planning Department and the applicant honor their original commitment. We also request that the city grant us permission to increase the height of the north perimeter wall of the Colony of El Mirador by 8, 16, or 24 inches to a maximum of 8 feet if our homeowners deem it necessary in order to address health and safety concerns." Mr. Evans commented that it's very difficult to add additional blocks to garden walls. However, the lot immediately adjacent to the lot that we own had exactly that done with the city's permission. So I find it a little, disturbing that the Planning Department would allow 2 additional blocks to be added to one garden wall in the same development and then deny even considering adding it to another wall which was built to the same standards by the same builder in the same development. Our second point is that representatives from the Riverside County Department of Public Health stated that they wish to have their family care center open possibly until 7 p.m. The applicant has increased this to 8 p.m. We will support the additional hour as long as it is explicitly stated that no client will be allowed to enter the facility after 8 p.m. and that any future requests for changes in the days or hours of operations go through a full formal public hearing process. I have a lot more respect for the job that you people do after I picked up the packet that you received with today's date on it and briefly went through it. And with regard to the hours, and this I think applies to the neighbors and why we are a little confused. On page 7, it says the facility will be open from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday, with possible extended hours to 8 p.m. and possibly, perhaps, Saturday. If you go on to a letter from the County of Riverside Community Health Agency, it says the hours are 7:30 to 5, Monday through Friday. Then if you go back to the back portion of it, of the City of Palm Springs initial study, page 2 of 29, it says the county medical facility has hours from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. You know, what are they? We were told that the hours would be specific. Here we have the one application that in 3 different locations have 3 different times, and at the last public meeting, we were told a 4th time. And we would like to see this. We were told by the planning department that they would get specific as to what the requirements were. My last point was that the county stated that they would have a security person assigned to the family care center. We request that it be stipulated that security be provided as required. If they don't need one, fine. If they need 2, they ought to have 2. But just to say we have 1 no matter how large it grows, I think is unrealistic. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Thomas Van Etten. I'm at 1379 Barrymore Place, and I live here in Palm Springs. I want to first off just start out by thanking the entire commission for what you did the last time we were here. You listened very carefully to the concerns of the neighbors, and your recommendation weighed heavily with the City Council, and we are extremely grateful and thank you so much for listening to us with such, well, we're just happy with the way it turned out the last time. But I want to go on record as giving this project my support in its present application to the Planning Commission. I also want to publicly thank Jing Yo, Alex Meyerhoff, and Doug Evans, who have done a superb job bringing the proponents of the project and concerned citizens together before the plan was submitted to you for approval. Not only did these individuals bring all of us together, but they listened to the citizens' concerns and modified the plans to validate citizens' concerns. With the previous project, citizens were asked for their input by the proponents, but the proponents of the project ignored our concerns, especially when the homeless daycare center was part of the equation. Democracy works when all people are heard, and I thank you especially, Mr. Evans, for recognizing our concerns and working with us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Afternoon, Ed Dietrich, chairman or president of the Homeowners Association at Sagewood and one of the organizers, along with the Van Ettens and several of the other members of the audience of the Neighborhood Association. I certainly won't repeat all the thank yous, and it's been actually quite interesting working on this project with all the people, including the members of the city staff. the Desert AIDS Project Board of Directors, the District Healthcare Board of Directors, along with all the other names that everybody else has already mentioned. So there was a lot of good dialogue in this, and again, I would affirm that the process, again, has worked, and it works well when people do take part in it. So thank you for encouraging and supporting that. My own board of directors definitely supports this new development. We would also support the concerns that were expressed in the letter by Mr. Van Etten, and would hope that those things be taken a look at more closely. Also, probably something that doesn't get mentioned a lot is the ongoing problem of, as Doug Evans pointed out at the last meeting that we had, group meeting we had, was that this is the third busiest intersection in the city. So we would ask you just to always keep that in mind as you're looking at this. I don't have any particular thoughts or recommendations, but it is a major, major, major intersection. And with that, I will sit down. Thank you, and thank everybody in the association who's worked together on this.
Thank you, Mr. Dietrich.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Harrington, and I'm the Director of Riverside County Department of Public Health, and we're looking forward to the proposed new facility for the Family Care Center. We've been operating across the street at 3111 Talkies Canyon Way for the past 14 years, and we've outgrown that facility. Last calendar year, we served over 4,000 patients through almost 10,000 visits. We provide healthcare services to the community members living in Palm Springs, Desert Hot Springs, and Cathedral City. The kinds of services we provide are primary healthcare services, health education, nutrition services. We provide well child exams, sports physicals. We're even working with College of the Desert to do the sports physicals for their football players. We provide family planning services, prenatal care, a variety of services. We provide services to patients who are insured, who are underinsured, and who are uninsured. So depending on your income, we're able to provide the healthcare services that are needed in the community. We also are members of the Exclusive Care Provider Network, which is the County of Riverside Employee Network, and most recently, employees of the Tramway Authority can come to our Family Care Center in Palm Springs for healthcare services. We also enjoyed the opportunity to meet with the community and with the planning staff, and thank Doug Evans for that opportunity. I think this has been the first time that our county health department has been involved meeting with the community members and educating them on the services that we provide, and we're really looking forward to this relationship in providing services to the community of Palm Springs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harrington.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Zach, and I am a resident of the Sagewood Condo Complex. And I'd like to echo what Ed Dietrich, our Board of Directors President, said about the project. But specifically, I'd like to thank the various people involved for this process that I think in its later term was much more responsive to our concerns as residents of that neighborhood. I think this project, as it's coming before you now, is very well conceived. I think the emendations that have been made responded very much to our concerns as residents of the area, and I think that the populations that are going to be served by the various parts of this project will be very fortunate indeed to have these wonderful facilities made available to them. The only thing I would like to reiterate is what Mr. Van Etten said in his letter about the hours of the medical clinic. I would not want to see it open past 8 o'clock in the evening for safety concerns in the neighborhood, and so I hope that you'll consider that very seriously as you do your deliberations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Acosta. I live here in Palm Springs at 434 Bradshaw, just around the corner from here. Currently, I am the community chairman of the Ryan White Inland Empire Planning Council, which deals with Title I funding, and I'm also a person living with AIDS. I'm also a person who's had a hard time, difficult time trying to find decent housing. I can say that today that I have found a home that I'm very happy with. But what I would like to share with you, as part of my responsibilities, along with many of my colleagues, is to go through the various surveys for the consumers that live with AIDS and HIV. And right up on top, alongside with medical services, is a need for homes, a need for housing. And I think that this project offers great opportunity for people living with AIDS, a home so that they can access services. I'd also like to let you know that I have the opportunity to meet nationally with other people from throughout the country to discuss various advocacy issues. And I'm proud to say that the Desert AIDS Project is recognized as a leader in the nation in terms of offering services and facilities to people living with this disease. So I urge acceptance of this program. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Mr. Acosta?
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Harvey Henderson, and I'm here to speak on behalf of the Family Health Center. And I have been receiving care from the Family Medical Center for the last 2.5 years, and I have numerous health conditions, and they have been more than I had ever anticipated in terms of being a patient and all of my medical problems. And I'm here to support the organization and the County of Riverside for the job that I have received from the health center. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Hinchy. I'm the Chief of Clinic Management for the County of Riverside. Just wanted to address a couple of items. One, there was a question about our hours of operation. We currently operate 7:30 to 5 Monday through Friday. We're looking at the potential, as I mentioned in our previous meeting, we're looking at the potential for expanding our hours up to 8 o'clock in the evening and possibly Saturdays, depending upon the needs of the facility, depending on the needs of the community. The other thing I'd just like to mention is that we are proposing to have a generator there that will be a benefit, I think, to the entire community in that in the event of a natural or even a man-made disaster, we'll have the capacity to operate up to 24 hours a day on an emergency basis to provide emergency medical services to the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinchy. Please come forward.
My name is Kelly Wadwa. I am an employee and a patient of the Palm Springs Family Care Center. The health coverage that I've chosen for my family is exclusive care. It's offered through Riverside County to our employees, and it's the most affordable for anyone that has dependent children. The thing, oh gosh, I forgot what I was going to say. Okay. The thing about the extended hours is that being county employees, our facilities are all open about the same times, so people have to take off of work and run in and out, and this way, if we have the hours extended, people can come by after work, and that way we'd be able to accommodate our employees as well as all of our other clientele. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
What do you need? Need your crib notes? Marvin Roos with Monero Smith & Associates.
Yep, time's up. We'll extend it. Go ahead.
We'll extend, thanks. Basically here to again extend our thanks to the staff and the community, as well as the developers, and McLaren, Barron, and Salazar for working together to come together on this. Hopefully we're there. We looked at the conditions of approval, don't have any real concerns. We're not sure that the security demands are going to be real high, but the security program is something we can work out with the city and the police department, and anticipate, a really kind of a minor program there in the long run. We'll see how that goes. Any questions on any of the detail stuff? I'm here, and I don't know if Andrew's going to speak, but the architect is also here.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Mercedes Marquez. I'm Vice President of McCormick Barron Salazar. I'm the co-venture developer with the Desert AIDS Project. We're happy to be back. It's been a long road, lots of meetings. I want to tell you up front that your planning staff is superb. Not only because they're committed, they're consistent, their writing is good, you understand what they're saying the first time, and I don't think that people thank them enough, and I really, outstanding. I want to address a little bit about the wall. We heard a comment that we had said an 8-foot wall, and now we're taking it back. We had talked about an 8-foot wall. In fact, we had proposed an 8-foot wall and talked the staff into an 8-foot wall in the last project, when we had the Homeless Day Center, when we had all this other activity. And we felt, in response to what some of the neighbors had said, that an 8-foot wall might help. And we convinced the staff of that at the time. They didn't want it, actually. That's not the project we have now. We have a pretty standard, traditional kind of project. I am particularly concerned, as we have scaled down, that if we put up an 8-foot wall, what we're beginning to do is to actually wall in the tenants, the residents, on our side. And they're going to be people living with HIV/AIDS. And I'm very concerned about stigma, particularly where there is no real planning need for that kind of a wall. So I would say that that is my overwhelming concern. The issues of, we'd have to take a look again at money. What we have done in response, you heard, expanded the parking by lots. We expanded the housing portion by 4,000 square feet to accommodate all that extra need. We're going to have a lot of asphalt there because they're not going to use all those cars. We already know that. But we're trying to respond to the community concern. If we get to the issue of an 8-foot wall, I would ask you to please limit it to the portion of the project that is where the Family Care Center is and the El Mirador community. I can understand from that point of view that some of the homes on the El Mirador side, they're their private backyards. I understand that. As we look at the senior project, what is on the other side of the current wall, it's all parking. There is no housing that is facing that. So that, for a long time, that's all parking on that side. So we don't think it's necessary there. We're not blocking noise there. It doesn't accomplish much there. And then certainly, as we approach the residential portion, I'm very concerned that then what we're doing is walling in these clients that live in the HIV housing. I'm available for questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. I'm Andrew Barker with Interactive Design Architects for the project. There was a comment earlier about conceptual drawings for the residential units. At this time, we don't have them, and you will be receiving them at a later date. But we just wanted to let you know the sheet of paper up at the upper left-hand corner is our architectural vocabulary. And these different projects around the immediate area is where we took off from to do the elevations for the county health building. And although the housing will look similar, it may not be exactly alike, and you will have an opportunity to review those drawings at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else that wishes to speak on this matter? See none, we'll close the public hearing. Back to commission. Mr. Caffrey.
Yes, Doug, I didn't see anything in the conditions of approval with regard to the generator. and how it would operate if, and my concern is merely if it's a diesel generator noise, exhaust,
Yeah,
and, okay.
it's our understanding this is an emergency generator, and it would only be operated in the event of an emergency. And we have those spaced all over town, and technically it still has to operate within the parameters of the noise ordinance. So if we'll look at that.
I
when they get-
understand that. I'm across the street from one, so I know. In a case of a brownout, 2 o'clock in the morning, no one's there. Is the thing going to kick on by itself? That's my concern.
We have not discussed the details of the generator with the applicant.
I think we should have something in there just to make it an emergency generator use only during hours of operation, just so it's not running on its own.
And I would agree with that because I have a neighbor that has a generator, and if the power goes out, 20 seconds later, his generator goes on, and that's the only reason I know that it's the power outage in the whole neighborhood. And 20 seconds after the power goes back on, it's off.
And obviously in case of emergency.
Yeah. I have a couple questions here on the conditions of approval, and these may be just that they're just boilerplate. When it talks about the fire department and the Knox boxes, I was not under the impression that there was any gated areas anywhere in the complex. Is there? Are there?
My recollection is there may be gates in the residential component. I'd have to defer to Jing or the applicant. Gates?
Yes, there are 2 gates, and one is at the extreme west end of the housing area, and it's a fire exit onto the driveway leading out to Vistacino.
Okay.
And then there's also an emergency gate right there, so fire can get in and out without having to provide turnarounds and things like that.
Thank you.
In regards to the emergency generator is located where the homeless housing center was going to be, behind 12-foot high wall.
Okay. The discussion about the 8-foot wall that is adjacent to or is a common wall with the El Mirador project, is that not the new project, and wouldn't that wall have been constructed possibly with just a little bit stronger block and re-rod and so forth, reinforcing that it could hold a higher amount of block?
Well, I could not tell you how that wall was constructed. The colony abuts the property only on this corner. This is the ranch club, condominium portion back here with carports along here, and then the ranch club office building along this area, and we had recommended that they switch to a fence through that area as opposed to a wall all along, just from the standpoint of being able to see through to the property. If the commission wants to put a condition in that where they abut, the wall could be raised, you could, subject to the building department's review. Mr. Van Etten raised the question of somebody added block to an existing wall. I don't know, what the wall was to begin with and the facts behind it. But typically a traditional garden wall you can't raise 2 feet. And very few people engineer an 8-foot high wall.
That's it, Doug.
Thank you very much. It's time for the commission to make a motion, I think, Mr. Chairman. That was the buzzer.
That was the buzzer. All right, I have one more little question here. On item number 5 in the conditions of approval, what is a designated smoking area that's provided in internal areas for the residents of the transitional housing?
Maybe Ms. Conrad wants to answer
Yeah, that's
that.
because of me, and I was delighted to see that.
Tell me what it is
And
then.
I thought the applicant was being fabulously responsive by including it. My concern was that there not be, since there was no smoking allowed at all within the living quarters, that people would just be smoking outside wherever they wanted, and that it could cause problems with, there's going to be children in the complex, and so I wanted there to be a particular place where people went to smoke, not just anywhere they felt like it or around the pool or wherever. And I think that's a good idea, and I think I'm glad to see it there.
So in other words, it's maybe like a garden area that's in one location. It's not inside the building. It's, okay. Otherwise, I am very happy with the project, and they've done a lot of work, and I think it will work.
Mr. Schoenberger.
I didn't go through all the conditions in detail. Do we have in the conditions hours for when the healthcare facility will be open?
Yeah, the public comments were right on point because Jing followed a moving target on the hours of operation too, and based upon when she wrote a report, it changed. The hours of operation that we put in the staff report were the hours of operation discussed at the last community meeting.
Which are what?
7 to 5 p.m. is their standard. They will extend to 8 p.m., so what we would suggest is that we add in the condition of approval dealing with the county family care facility, and that is condition number 6. We put an hours of operation condition in that basically says that the hours of operation of the facility are 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Saturday. So there's no if the commission wants to restrict it more, you may. You could say Saturday, 7 to 5, 8 to 5. You can put in any conditions you want. They've indicated that today they're not open Saturdays, but they would like to be. I can tell you the Desert Healthcare District would like to encourage the evening hours so that when people go home from work and somebody's ill at home, they come here and not to the ER. And having run into situations that sharp objects tend to cut my skin all the time, I can tell you, I've been at the ER a couple of times in that time frame. There's a lot of people there with the flu. Commissioner Conrad will probably tell you that's
I'm in full support of extended hours, it shouldn't impact the neighborhood. I think 8 o'clock is a reasonable compromise, and it allows working people to go after work. And Saturday, it probably doesn't need to extend into the evening.
What about till noon on Saturday? Would that be?
I even think till 5 on Saturday.
Yeah, 7 to 5 on Saturday and 8 o'clock. But that means though to address some of the neighbors' concerns, what does 8 o'clock mean? That no more people would come in after 8 o'clock? That would be, is the director of the services, is that what 8 o'clock means? Is there somebody here who operates the facility or involved in the operation that could address the concerns of the neighbors that it not go beyond 8 o'clock?
Yes, sir. What we would do is have our last appointment at 7 o'clock p.m. and then do the very best we could to have client and staff
Out by 8.
Out by 8 o'clock and finished.
And would Saturday hours 7 to 5 be okay? I don't see a need to go to 8 o'clock on Saturday if we're trying to accommodate people who work.
That's correct. Saturdays from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. would be fine.
All right. And the other issue that the final issue that was raised that I would like to have addressed is the security. Is there in the conditions now? Is there a condition that there be security personnel there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we put a condition in that there be a security plan submitted for review by the police department and the planning and zoning department, and it goes on to say on-site security staff shall be present during operating hours and for at least 1 hour after closing so that the parking lot is typically emptied. And I believe it's the county's proposal, and it's one of the things that they require is a security guard.
Okay. And I think that's fine. Is that how you understand it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. That's correct.
Okay, and just a comment, I think it's gratifying to us as well to see a project that has had caused so much concern, to see the applicant and the neighbors come together and work with staff and find a solution that everybody's comfortable with. It's very gratifying to us as well.
Very good. You ready to make the motion?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I could maybe make a suggestion on the security, because I think today Desert AIDS Projects does activities past 8 p.m. That we really take a look at, and they don't provide security. And John can throw something at me if that's incorrect. We probably want to talk about the security staff in the context of the county family care facility and define it.
I think that's what we are talking about. That's what I was talking about.
It's not written that way, so
I think it ought to be
if
written
okay
that
with
way.
the commission, we'll make the change that the security program is really geared towards the county facility. And there's also another condition that if there's a problem, the police chief, myself, the planning commission, we get engaged if there's a problem and, can have new hearings and set new conditions.
With that, we'll let Mr. Caffrey make the motion today. How's that?
I would move that we approve case 5.0934, subject to the conditions in the approval from the staff report, and also add the conditions for the security, the generator, and the times of operation.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call vote, please, Michelle.
Ms. Conrad?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye.
Mr. Caffrey?
Aye.
Mr. Klatchko?
Aye. Motion carries 5-0 with one abstention. And congratulations to the community and the applicants.
It's break time, huh?
Yeah, we'll take a brief recess. Thank you. May we come to order, please? May we come to order? Back in session. Let's go back to public hearing item number 2, case number 3.2348, application by Jay Reynolds for Palm Canyon Townhouses LLC for a tentative tract map and architectural approval to construct 19 condominium units on 2.69 acres of property located at 2765, 2801 South Palm Canyon Drive. Staff report, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is an item that we're going to ask the commission to open the hearing and take any public testimony today on the tentative map and the architectural approval side of it. But due to an oversight on my part, it wasn't until we had noticed this project and gotten it way down the road that I realized that in 1993 we had changed the general plan on the property. We have not yet changed the zoning on the property, so the applicant was working on R2 zoning, and we had been going down the road that was it. And it wasn't until we really got into the detailed analysis we realized we have an inconsistency. We are going to work with the applicant and bring back a proposal to amend the general plan on this property, and we'll talk to you more specifically about that because it's not on calendar today at your July 2nd study session. But we did ask the applicant to attend today because we're not sure if any members of the public may have come to the project, and I would like to get an opportunity for Jing to give you a quick overview of the actual proposal. I think the commission has seen this in study session, and it's a really tough piece of property that's been looked over and picked over for decades, and we think we have a pretty good proposal, and it clearly isn't at the maximum density that the R2 zone would allow. It's closer to really 6 units per acre. So it's in that ballpark. But with that, Jing will give you a quick overview if that's the commission's pleasure.
Thank you. That'd be fine.
Okay, just to sort of orient you, this is located essentially at the northwest intersection of South Palm Canyon Drive, Murray Canyon Drive. These are that's the Palm Canyon Resort timeshare here. Canyon Heights sort of wraps around like this around the project. There's the Ridge development up in this area, which is currently vacant, and there's photographs there, just in case you might recognize it. It's a pretty, as Doug mentioned, it's an irregular shaped parcel. It makes it pretty difficult to develop. So what the applicant has proposed is 16 condominium units. You can see this is actually just for landscape purposes, but the most revised site plan is here. The buildings actually match together in terms of duplexes. You can see in this diagram here, so about probably 8 different buildings. Most of them are on the flat portion of the property. You can see it in this photograph in this area, and the pad elevations are reasonable. They are either right at average grade at curb or just a little bit above it, in due consideration to the development directly to the west at Canyon Heights. There are 2 proposed hillside units up in this area. They provided site sections showing how those units lay out. In order to minimize the cut slope, the units actually lie on 3 different pad elevations. They start at the garage level at 520.5 finished floor, and then the main residence is on a second pad, and then the third pad involves the pool area. So in that case, the applicant is requesting an administrative minor modification for building height of 30 feet because they tried to stay with the natural slope of the hillside, and also some minor reductions by about a foot for the front and our rear setbacks primarily for the second story overhangs. That gives you a short overview of the property. This was reviewed by the Design Review Committee previously a few months ago. They reacted very positively towards the architecture. They had some recommendations with regards to pulling the glazing up beneath the roof fascia, streamlining the architecture a bit, and also recommended perhaps painting the garage doors to make them blend right into the architecture. That concludes my staff report. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. Any questions of staff before we have an abbreviated hearing today? Ms. Morantz?
There was a question here about whether the pool, and this pool is actually not included as part of the plan anymore. That's a superseded plan.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this matter will be tabled, but it is a public hearing matter. Anybody that is here in the audience that wishes to speak to the commission, please come forward at this time. Seeing none, we'll close the hearing for today, and we'll entertain a motion then, unless somebody wants to make a comment, to take this matter off calendar to be reinstated when the applicant and staff are ready and fully renoticed in appropriate fashion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Morantz, second by Mr. Caffrey. Roll call vote, please, Michelle.
Ms. Conrad. Ms. Morantz.
Aye.
Mr. Grinch.
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger. Mr. Caffrey.
Aye.
Mr. Klatchko.
Aye, motion carries unanimously.
And Mr. Chairman, I just would like to extend my concern to the applicant and recognize that we did cause them a hardship, and we're sorry about that, but we can't make findings that are inconsistent. So we'll try to get this back on calendar as fast as we
I know
can.
this is a very rare happening, and you do your best. Next item is number 3, case 6.470, VAR application by Frank Wachowski, construction for Michael Kahn to add 354 square feet of family breakfast room, backing on a fairway 10 feet from the rear property line at 2320 South Camino Real. Staff report, please.
This property is located at 2320 South Camino Real. It's in the Palm Canyon Country Club development, which is an R1C zoning designation for the property and surrounding properties. The applicant is requesting a relief to the rear yard setback of, the rear yard setback as described by zone is 20 feet. The applicant is requesting a relief of 10 feet to accommodate a 352 square foot addition. It would include a living space and a breakfast area. These properties, in doing research, these properties were all actually developed with a 15-foot rear yard setback, which is interesting. This particular property is well defined. It's an irregular piece on a curved portion of the road. The T is right here. So here's the fairway as it proceeds down. The narrowest portion of the side yard is 54 feet. That represents a 46-foot difference between the depth in the R1C zoning designation for the lot should be 100. So consequently, there is a finding for substandard depth. Because of the irregularity of the lot, the original residence was placed towards the rear with the recreational amenities towards the front. Consequently, that leaves very little room for any kind of remodeling or addition to a living space. There's an existing wall that kind of gives a little bit of, and it's depicted in the photographs, that gives a little bit of seclusion or privacy to that back area that of course would have to be removed. CC&Rs for the property actually indicate a 5-foot setback from the rear lot line is acceptable. Consequently, staff, and they also require an approval by the Palm Canyon Country Club's Architectural Control Committee, and so consequently staff has included that as a condition of approval. Other city departments were notified of this variance request, and there have been no responses or concerns expressed. I haven't received, or nor other staff members, any responses to our public hearing notice, so we don't believe we have any public or neighbor concerns in regards to this project. And lastly, Planning Commission did approve a very similar variance request, a 10-foot rear yard setback on a fairway in this development also several years ago. So Planning Commission has entertained this type of setback variance before. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Kathy. Ms. Morantz?
I did have one question. Has there been any letters of any kind from the architectural committee that they, or has he approached the architectural committee as to whether or not going into this setback is okay?
That's a good question. All notice has been obviously to adjacent property owners within the 400 feet notification boundary, but I'm not sure if that's been passed on to a homeowners or architectural committee in regards to this project. Of course, that would be a mandate of the condition of approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing item. Anybody wishing to address the commission, please come forward at this time. You can give us your name. Is the applicant present? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Back to commission.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Schomburger.
I think this is important that the club, the Canyon Country Club, be aware of this. Did the country club itself not get? Do we know if the country club itself got notice of this of this application?
The adjacent property owners were noticed, which would have included the ownership of the golf course, which is not necessarily the club. We typically don't enforce the CC&Rs, and so we did our traditional notice. It would be the applicant's responsibility to deal with the CC&Rs. I haven't had any contact with a architectural committee in many, many years, and there's been some question as to whether or not there even is one formed, but we typically don't seek that out.
Well, that's kind of my concern, that the only other interested party here would be the country club itself, and whether they have an architectural review or not, I don't know. But I'm not sure whether there's a homeowners association anymore that's active and has an architectural control committee. So I just have a concern that the country club itself be aware of this application and whether they have any comment on it. And I'm not sure the way this is written that will happen, because the way the condition is written, that the approval of the Canyon Country Club Homeowners Association Architectural Control Committee be obtained, there may not even be such a body.
It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the other interested party I would see here, because this is right on the tee of a golf course, would be the country club itself, and whether they have any concern with this, I don't know, but I think they ought to be aware of it, and if they didn't get noticed, then I'm not sure that we're really, we've done everything that we should do to make sure that somebody doesn't have a problem with this.
In our standard public hearing notice, we send the notice to all the property owners within 400 feet, and the golf course is immediately abutting.
Okay.
So the golf course ownership received the notice. I'm not sure if that's the same as the club, and if they would recognize it as that.
Well, I'm not sure of the ownership of the club. It's all leased, so it may have gone to the Indian landowner, and not to the Canyon Country Club management.
Well, the golf course, and I'll just use the generic term, the golf course ownership pays property tax, and we send the notice to the property tax address. We send it to the Bureau of Indian Affairs so that they can contact the underlying Indian owners. So if we had the correct information from the title company, the golf course ownership, which should be related back to the club, should have received the notice.
I know the manager up there, and it would just be I feel a lot better about this if we knew that the club was aware of this and had no objection to it.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah.
Would the commission entertain on condition of approval number 6, that it would read that the applicant shall obtain approval from the proposed addition from the Canyon Country Club Homeowners Association, strike Architectural Control Committee, before the issuance of any building permits by the City of Palm Springs Building Department?
Well, if it
would
said-
that satisfy?
Yeah, I don't think it's a homeowners association, so it would, if it said would obtain the approval from the Canyon Country Club,
Okay.
then I think it would be fine. But golf course, yeah, Canyon Country Club Golf Course Management. Because I mean, I live on the Canyon, or near the Canyon Country Club, and there used to be a homeowners association, and I'm not even sure that's in existence anymore. I don't think there's an architectural control committee anymore, and the interested party here really would be the golf course. And so I think that if the condition were that approval were obtained from them, then I'd have no problem with this at all.
Yeah, I generally do have a problem with that type of modification. I don't think that the country club should have veto power on this. I think that we maybe should take some steps to make sure that they have notice, and if there's some objection, they have a right to, they should have a right to express that objection, and we can weigh it along with all the other considerations, especially since we've done this in the past with a similarly configured circumstance. I don't, from my perspective, I don't think that they should have a thumbs up, thumbs down vote, but I certainly don't want them to be left out if they didn't get notice. I think Mr. Evans is implying that they may have notice. Mr. Evans?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I don't like to choose one commissioner's comments over another, but since this is your last meeting, Mr. Chairman, I can tell you that in discussing this type of issue with the city attorney, you cannot defer your approval to another entity. Particularly an application like this.
Comments are well taken.
What we would suggest that we add in here, because I think at the end of the day, we won't be able to get approval from the committee, because there is not one, that they're not there. But if you added a condition that basically said that the staff is required to provide notice to the club, and we'll get the right name and make sure we deliver it, and then we will advise them of the appeal process if there's a concern on their part. And I think that gives them due notice, and if they have a real concern about proximity to golf, they can go through the traditional appeal process. But we'd like to probably get rid of 6 the way it's written, and just put in that we will provide notice to the golf course management company, and if that's the club, we'll define it as whatever that entity is.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm comfortable with that. Mr. Grant?
Yeah, I agree with Doug, because as I'm reading this, they're requesting a variance from a setback. It doesn't talk here at all. And again, with what Doug said, that's their issue internally within the homeowners association, if there is one. So, I'm looking at a setback issue. They're asking for a variance from a setback. It's none of my business whether they have an issue with the homeowners association or not. The homeowners association or the club has to do that, not us. We're dealing strictly with the variance.
And those CC&Rs are enforceable even if the association is no longer actively functioning, so they can do that. Anything further? Mr. Caffrey?
Since you've mentioned a homeowners association, whether it's in existence or not, does that mean I have to abstain since I'm a homeowner on the course?
Are you a member in the Canyon Country Club?
No.
No? You're in Kings Point?
No, I'm on the course. 11
But-
Cole.
But you're just on the course. Are you within 500 feet of this application? You don't have any ownership interest in the golf course,
No.
and this variance won't affect the value of the golf course, in my opinion. I don't believe you have a conflict.
Okay, thank you. You want me to make the motion?
Yeah, you get to make the motion again. Go ahead, John.
You can second.
I'm okay. I'd move approval of case number 313, wait a minute, are we on the right one?
Get it right.
6470.
Yeah.
Subject to the conditions in the staff report and with the notification with appeal rights.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Caffrey, second by Mr. Grinch. Anything further? Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Conrad? Aye. Ms. Morantz?
Aye.
Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye.
Mr. Caffrey?
Aye.
Mr. Crutchko?
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. All right, the next item for consideration is number 5. Case 5.0962, CUP application by Barbara Pongratz for the Face Place for use as a spa facility with 8 treatment rooms and retail sales at 1555 South Palm Canyon Drive. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
my office and my business is within 500 feet of this applicant.
Thank you, Ms. Morantz.
Oh, yeah, face place.
Mr. Chairman and respected members of the commission, this is, as stated, a conditional use permit for a use. The use is a spa facility with associated retail that's located in the Plaza del Sol shopping area. Consequently, that's South Palm Canyon Drive. It's adjacent to a C1 zoning designation across the road. There's a C1 zoning designation on the site, although it is a PD. And then on the west, we have an R3 and then R2. The actual building, I don't have an appropriate, this gives you an idea. Here's Steinmart, and it's back off the side. There are going to be 8 treatment rooms. 4 include massage, 4 facial. There's associated waiting rooms, retail space, office, break rooms, etc. The square footage for the site is 2,987 square feet. Each one of the rooms has approximately 125 to 130 square feet. The applicant has had a similar business in the La Plaza location for over 20 years. The applicant is moving to this site for basically a little bit additional square footage and parking. The parking was calculated as retail space for this structure in the original approval for the Plaza del Sol, and so the parking is consistent with original findings. Palm Springs Fire Department and Palm Springs Police Departments have both been contacted in regards to this property. The police reports no concerns with any of the prior business actions or locations for this particular business. Fire comments are included as conditions of approval. Planning staff has received 1 inquiry in response to the public notification process, and that person owned some property in an adjacent in the R3 zoning designation, and she expressed her support for this particular business. And that concludes staff's report for this particular project.
Thank you very much. Any questions of staff before we open the public hearing? All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing matter. Anybody wishing to speak to this issue, please come forward at this time. Give us your name. Please sign the clipboard before you leave.
My name is John Trueblood. I'm the architect for this project. I noticed on the paperwork that the fire department has indicated several conditions, and I just wanted to be sure that approval here would not be subject to those conditions. The conditions that they're talking about should rightly be taken up with the building department and the building permit, and they, on the other hand, they're in error also. I can elaborate on that if we want to, but it just doesn't seem like something that the Planning Commission would review. It's a building matter.
All right, thank you. We'll be able to respond to that after the close of the public session. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak on this matter? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and maybe, Doug, we can start with a comment about the fire department conditions and why they would be deemed appropriately a part of our conditions of approval.
Mr. Chairman, if maybe I could defer to the fire marshal, Mr. Carl Tebow, to take a look at them.
I didn't see him sitting in the audience. That'd be fine.
I think Mr. Trueblood is correct that we would, in our normal city review of building plans, catch all of the fire requirements, but typically on a conditional use permit, we do solicit comments in advance from all the city departments that review development proposals. So in essence, I think you could do what Mr. Trueblood said, and these conditions may come up in plan check. But since Mr. Tebow is here, you can have him take a look at it and get his opinion.
Great, always happy to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think the intent here is to make sure that the applicant knew that because of the sensitivity with the automatic fire sprinklers, that they know well in advance that they're going to have to do something to augment them or to alter that system if they need to. And I think that was probably the reason for those conditions. But he's certainly correct. They can all be caught in a building plan check, and they will be.
So fire department would have no objection to removing them from the conditions of approval with the understanding that they will have to meet whatever are appropriately are your requirements in due course?
Certainly.
All right. Thank you. All right. Back to the commission. All right, Mr. Grinch.
Make a motion, move for approval, case number 5.0962, conditional use permit for the Face Place at 155 South Palm Canyon per the conditions as recommended.
With removal of the fire department conditions?
Correct. Second.
Motion by Mr. Grinch, second by Mr. Schoenberger. Roll call vote, please, Michelle.
Ms. Conrad? Aye. Mr. Grinch?
Aye.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye.
Mr. Caffrey?
Aye.
Mr. Klatchko?
Aye. Motion carries 5-0 with one abstention. And if we could, so there she is. All right, our next public hearing is case 5.0576, SP 1A, for a general plan amendment and revisions to the Canyon South Specific Plan Number 1A. Application by the City of Palm Springs for A, general plan amendments to remove the PR, M15, and H30 designations west of South Palm Canyon Drive and replace them with L2, low density residential, 2 units per acre. Redesignate 35 acres southwest of Canyon Heights development from L2 to C, conservation. To redesignate the southeast corner of South Palm Canyon Drive and Murray Canyon Drive from M15, medium density residential, 12 to 15 units per acre, to H30, high density residential, 21 to 30 units per acre. And B, revisions to specific plan number 1A, which is proposed to consist of 4 components: the golf course redesign and clubhouse remodel, the hotel and spa location, existing and proposed proposed residential development, and conservation open space. Reduction of the project boundary by approximately 20 acres at the northeast corner, and reduction in the proposed number of units for the specific plan by 40 units for the planning area comprising approximately 471 acres located south of Murray Canyon Drive, north of Oconto Drive, west of Palm Canyon Wash, and east of the San Jacinto Mountains.
Mr.
All
Chairman,
right, that's a mouthful. Go ahead.
I need to abstain due to my property, my primary residence is located within 400 feet.
Mr. Chairman, I need to abstain as well. Our law firm represents a property owner in the area covered.
Very good, Mr. Schoenberger, thank you. Excused for a moment.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Ms. Morantz.
I will be abstaining on this item because my husband and son do business with the ACDA, but I drew the short straw, so I will be sitting here for the purposes of a quorum.
Very good. And for the public's information, we previously faced this problem and resolved it. Did you have a
If
further
I
comment?
could just briefly explain, that process, when we don't have a quorum of the Planning Commission which is 4 members of the commission, the first time an item comes before the commission, we draw straws from the commissioners that have conflicts. We did that. We had all 7 commissioners here when we drew straws. Commissioner Morantz drew the straw. She sits for purposes of the quorum. She does not participate and discuss the project at all. And at the time of a motion, she will state she abstains. So at this point, it's 3 planning commissioners. And if the commission's ready, we'll give you a staff report.
Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is an item that is primarily a literature project. It's an item that we've given you a document that's the Canyon South Specific Plan. It's an amendment. It's the second amendment to this particular project area. We've also given the Planning Commission and circulated for public review another document, the addendum to the Environmental Impact Report. We've sent out a public hearing notice to all property owners within 400 feet and all the property owners within the specific plan, so it's pretty significant mailing. What is before the commission today is a general plan amendment that basically would move land uses around to primarily put the hotel back to the location that it previously was located and expand that hotel site, and then correspondingly designate some additional land use areas on the property, and I'll go through them fairly quickly when I show you an aerial photograph. But the actual document that you're approving today, other than amending the general plan, is you're approving a document that's called a specific plan that deals with the actual development criteria. This is not a development project. You're not approving architecture. You're not approving detailed site plans, even though we're going to show you a theoretical hotel configuration and design that's been through a review process with both the Planning Commission and Design Review. And we recognize that there's some concerns about the architecture of that building, but you're not actually approving that. As with any hotel project, there needs to be a developer, and typically the developer is the person that takes the risk, prepares a preliminary plan, gets something approved on the property that they then go and market. And that's really the purpose of that hotel diagram that you see, is so they can go out and show people that there can be a hotel on this location, and the city's taken a look at the site planning issues, the height and bulk and mass issues, but you're not approving project architecture or any specific site plan with any action today. I'm going to couch most of my comments towards the specific plan when I go up to the board as far as the land use relationships. We've been working on this property for quite some time. First environmental document was done in 1991. It was an EIR, a very extensive document that addressed the issues of the development at that time. In 1994, we did another environmental document. It was an environmental assessment that led to a mitigated negative deck where we moved the hotel location around due to opposition from the neighborhood and reapproved the project with the hotel on the west side of Palm Canyon, and I'll point that out. The document that we have before you today, the addendum to the EIR, really goes back and takes a look at the body of knowledge that we've gained through two previous environmental documents, put it together in a document that reads for this project, and we felt that there weren't any substantial changes to the project that needed to recirculate a supplemental EIR or other environmental document. You do have a letter from Wayne Brechtel representing the Sierra Club. We passed that out to you, where they've raised issues relative to the type of environmental document we've used. And I think when you read that letter, you really realize they're focusing in on the west side of Palm Canyon Drive. That's an area that a portion of the west side of Palm Canyon Drive is critical habitat for the bighorn sheep. We knew that that was going to be a controversy. We never expected the Sierra Club to not have concerns about the west side of this property. And in the specific plan, we did increase the amount of conservation in that area. That conservation area is now 207 acres. That's substantially more than the roughly 120 that was in the original specific plan. It basically leaves on a property that's always referred to as the Gans parcel. Out of a 115-acre development with a density transfer, they'd be able to develop 80 acres under this specific plan. The Sierra Club objects to that because of the critical habitat, and we will pass out a revision to our conditions of approval, and we've got a condition that we'd like to put into the record that would become part of the specific plan, the approval documents that you would recommend to council. And that would basically state that the property west of South Palm Canyon Drive within the critical habitat will need additional environmental review. And what that basically does is allows the Sierra Club to object to a project in the future and not have to take any action to try to forestall moving forward with the overall project. We appreciate that they've been working with us. They've been working with the city attorney, with staff, and we've been working through the beginning of today's meeting to try to come up with wording that I think everybody's agreed to. So that would be something I'll pass out in a moment. You can take a look at that. The other issue that we've been dealing with on this property that's been a challenge has had to deal with the Palm Canyon Wash. And you also have a letter from the Sierra Club with concerns about the Monte Sereno project area, and I'll point that out, and how the Palm Canyon Wash is being worked on. You know, we recognize that they have a concern there, and I'll talk to that a little bit more, but we did revise condition number 4 in your resolution, and I think Jing is passing those out, that basically works on how are we going to make and work with the property owners adjacent to the two property owners, the golf course property owner, the Development Authority, Agua Caliente Development Authority, and the property next to it, Palm Canyon LLC, the Monte Sereno subdivision. And staff has maintained all along that there's some issues that only the two property owners can resolve, and they have to come to agreements, and we basically said before we issue a permit for the golf course that they need to reach agreement on how a little nose or remnant of the golf course will be handled in the future. And it's my understanding there's agreement that it needs to be moved. It's part of a stipulated judgment with the Sierra Club and the previous approval. And we just need the parties to come to agreement on how that occurs and when that occurs. And we would prefer not to step in the middle of that and say, okay, here's how it will occur. And I think the parties are aware of the language we've worked on, and I've been on the phone, on the email, and meeting in person on and off all morning. I think we have agreement that that will be worked on. I don't think either party's real comfortable with the language in number 4, the Development Authority or the Palm Canyon LLC. And we hope that between now and the council meeting, that we have this further defined and it's no longer something that we're still discussing, that we know exactly what's going to happen and when, but we know the ultimate solution, and that's been consistent since about 1994. Mr. Chairman, that's a quick administrative overview. As I go to the board, I'll go over some of the other issues and point out where the different land uses would be on an aerial photograph, so it's a lot easier to follow. This is an aerial exhibit that we'll just use for representation purposes. It's not one of the documents that you actually approved today. I don't want anybody to be confused because it does show proposed subdivisions. They're not on the agenda today. It just shows you what was contemplated at one point. The prime area of controversy that I addressed is the west side of Palm Canyon Drive. The current specific plan has a 450-room hotel in this location, 100,000 square foot conferencing facility, golf course and homes, pretty intensive development. We felt that changing that to residential low 2, limiting to the development to this area, making the rest of it conservation with a density transfer was a very sensitive way to handle it. Obviously, the Sierra Club disagrees. But to take the hotel from this location to this location, we think is a pretty substantial reduction in environmental impact in and of itself. But this is the area through here, which is the critical habitat. Looking at the critical habitat diagram, everything west of this line would require further environmental review. That would roughly, again, be from here over. And I can tell you the position from the environmental groups hasn't changed in a number of years on that line. There is a minor effect on some allotted land over here, maybe just a little tiny effect on tribal land over there relative to the critical habitat line. But that's basically the area that's represented in the condition number 5 that we passed out to you. Believe everybody's comfortable with that, but we'll find out during the public hearing. The new hotel site would be expanded over what's existing. It'd come down to this existing small culvert bridge on South Palm Canyon Drive next to Canyon Heights, basically realign this part of the channel so that they would pick up some additional acreage, and the hotel site becomes 13 acres. And the hotel could have up to 450 rooms. And the diagrams that you have, and I'll show you in a moment, were really for a proposed project that's a bit less than that. It's a little over 350 rooms is the way they diagram that. But it shows that you could do a substantial destination resort hotel in that area. And the specific plan talks about the types of performance standards. The hotel would have to come back to the Planning Commission as a planned development district, so we would put that through a review process at the time we actually had the hotel designed. Specific plan doesn't really address or change anything in these areas. It's still single family or cluster residential, depending on the overall development pattern. This one subdivision is already approved, but it's not a final map yet. But that is approved. There's a project under construction here, Conto Partners, and they're finishing up their subdivision improvements. These parcels are Indian land. I don't believe they've been leased, with one Indian owner residence in that location. The other area that has been very delicate to deal with is the Palm Canyon Wash area. The commission has recommended approval of the Monte Sereno subdivision. We have not taken that up to City Council. The owners of Monte Sereno have been meeting with the Sierra Club, and we're very hopeful that they will come to an agreement fairly soon as to what types of conditions might have to occur. And we've taken the position of not pushing that up to council. until after there's some resolution there, and we're optimistic that that's occurring. So this property here is already designated for single-family residential when we approved the golf course. We also approved a plan amendment for the general plan that pushed all the golf into the golf area and the residential into the undeveloped area. So that's already designated low 2 from the standpoint of the general plan. The area that condition number 4 deals with is this portion of the existing golf course, which encroaches into the Palm Canyon Wash. We have an agreement with the Sierra Club that eventually the minimum width of that area is 285 feet with an average of 300. We don't think we'll ever have a problem meeting the average, and we know we're going to meet the 285. And the condition number 4 really deals with the agreement on when that remnant piece of the old golf course comes out. It really was an encroachment that occurred over a number of years. The new golf course actually would be back into this area, and they wouldn't use that. So eventually that piece has to come out. And I think we've got the beginnings of an understanding on how that will work. Commission's already approved the location of the new clubhouse in here, reworking it, and we've started some discussions. I think the Agua Caliente Development Authority is likely to redesign that building. They looked at it and felt it needed some work, and they're working on some new plans for that particular building at this time. Mr. Chairman, the original specific plan had just under 1,300 units, hotel and or residential units. This proposal is 1,260, so it's a little bit less in density. And I think when we actually net out subdivisions, if people do these types of subdivisions, at the end of the day, we'll probably come in dwelling unit count a little bit less. During public comments, there was a concern about access into the canyon area, and that's always been a concern, and I'll just address that now. South Palm Canyon Drive is, and I think for the long-term future, going to be the only access into Palm Canyon. It's unlikely we're ever going to be able to have a secondary access point that was started here and abruptly ends at the hillside along this portion of the wash. Even though the city's taken it off their plan, we've been asked to keep it on the plan, but technically it's off the plan. At this point, I don't think we're going to get that roadway elevated above the wash. So how do we deal with South Palm Canyon Drive and access? The idea is, when you get to Bogert Trail, it's a 4-lane roadway. So you have 2 lanes in, 2 lanes out. In the event of an emergency, you've got exiting and you've got emergency coming in. We have a grant application, and part of the overall hydrology for this area is to put a bridge in this location so that the water goes underneath. It's also to capture the water through this area so that Bogert Trail and South Palm Canyon Drive no longer flood out. So we should not have a flooding problem, which has really been the only issue that we've really had in the past that limits access into the canyon when the muck is coming across the roadway and the boulders are about the size of grapefruits and a little bit difficult to get through the muck and certainly not very clean on your car. So we think overall when the flood control improvements go in, the bridge goes in, we're not going to have that access issue. Certainly Bogert Trail was planned, designed to carry the type of traffic that we see out of this area, and I think that the fact that there are some curves on it does help keep the speed down, and I know the city put a stop sign in this location, and that has slowed down some of the traffic. But over time, we're going to be monitoring that street and working with property owners as to how that traffic works in that particular location. Mr. Chairman, I think I've gone over most of the key issues. I didn't go over each individual general plan amendment, but clearly, residential, hotel, residential, golf and recreation. It's a pretty simple land use pattern, and probably the best land use pattern we could have in that area, putting the hotel back where it probably belongs, right on the corner, up against and adjacent to an existing timeshare resort, another timeshare project approved in this location, and a nice traffic signal and sense of entry. Just to make sure that I keep the commission awake, wanted to, again go over the fact that, this is a conceptual design of a hotel. Site plan wise basically shows above ground parking, underground parking, a main wing of the hotel, and then a casitas area, recreation areas, with the idea that most of the recreation is a little bit below the dike level, so that activity is low, but you still see the mountains. That's something that in our neighborhood meeting that the Development Authority coordinated, people were concerned about the amount of activity that occurs over here and whether or not it's going to disturb the houses. This is a design by Gensler and Associates. It has a maximum height of architectural feature of 90 feet, 88 feet. Basically, the mass of the building is lower in the just below the 66-foot mark. And on Indian land with a high-density designation, there's a height limit of 100 feet. And I think that, eventually, if we want a real destination resort, we'll probably end up with a 5- and 6-story building. Whether or not the end product has as much architectural element above, it remains to be seen. That in value engineering, most hotel operators would probably say, do we really need all of that additional height to really make the hotel function? So we may see something different. The idea here was really a rock element up to about here, and then the superstructure of the hotel in a very contemporary form coming out. And again, architecture tends to please some and raise debate in others, and I think the commission witnessed that, where you had a group of architects that in the gross context of the level of detail, they liked it, and I know the commission felt that it's probably a little bit too aggressive in the style and design of it. And we've had discussions with the Development Authority, and I think it's also got some eyebrows raised in their directors as far as, is this really what we would want to do? But I think it gives you a good idea of what the hotel could be, mass and scale, and how it fits. And I think actually, considering how big it is, it actually fits in, and the visual impact is not as bad as one might expect because of the neighboring land uses, where you really don't have views from a lot of different directions, where you're really looking at the building or it's blocking a lot of view. It certainly will change the view on the golf course and to the properties to the south. Mr. Chairman, that completes our report. If I missed anything, Jing will tell me, and I'm certain that people in the public hearing will also bring up issues if I missed them.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Any questions before we open the public comments?
I have one question, Doug. So are we going to consider all of this as one gigantic thing, or are we going to take it piece by piece?
The Commission's pleasure on how you would like to do it. You certainly could take it as one motion, but clearly you have to do the general plan issues first before you can deal with the specific plan. And the first action you take essentially sets in motion the environmental findings.
Okay. With that, we'll open the public hearing on this matter. Anybody wishing to address the commission, please come forward, give us your name, and sign the clipboard before you leave.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Nicole Christ. I'm with Terra Nova Planning and Research, and we represent ACDA on this project. We drafted the specific plan for ACDA as well as the EIR addendum. We've worked very hard with staff to, as you know, work through some of the challenges with this property. Ultimately, the purpose of the document is to simplify the planning process for the property owners within the boundary of the specific plan area. The extensive and grandiose plans previously proposed are not going to happen, and the purpose here was to simplify the process for those who are still involved. We believe that the impacts associated with the specific plan have been reduced by the relocation of the hotel to the Old Canyon Hotel site, and that is demonstrated at length in the EIR addendum. The ACDA has been in contact with the Tribal Planning Office. The Tribal Planning Commission reviewed this item on the 23rd of June, and Tribal Planning staff requested the addition of a mitigation measure, which we would ask be added to the EIR addendum as follows. In conjunction with any required planning application for the 80-acre property previously identified as the Gantz parcel, documented compliance with the Tribal Habitat Conservation Plan shall be provided. That was Tribal Planning staff's request, and we have no problem with that addition. We also understand the concerns associated with condition number 4. We have worked for some time with the adjacent property owner, Palm Canyon LLC, on the configuration and construction of that, what we call the nose at staff level, of land that is currently located on the edge of the golf course, and we will gladly work with Palm Canyon LLC to work that out prior to council meeting, and demonstrate to the city that there is an agreement prior to the issuance of grading permits for the golf course. ACDA will also be requesting assistance from the city's redevelopment agency in the relocation of an existing sewer line, which occurs in that nose. It was located there after the, I believe, '83 flooding as an emergency project, and it is too high and too close to the wash and will have to be pushed back. And we will make a request of the RDA that the city assist us with that project. Other than that, ACDA is satisfied with the conditions of approval and mitigation measures and looks forward to being able to have sufficient entitlements on the hotel property to be able to recruit an operator for that site. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Christ.
Good afternoon, members of the Commission. My name is Wayne Brechtel. It's my pleasure to be here to speak on behalf of the Sierra Club. I'll quickly go through the items on the agenda today. The first is the Indian Canyons Resort Hotel. We actually submitted a letter in support of that aspect of this specific plan amendment, which is the first in my history as legal counsel for the Sierra Club where I sent in a letter supporting the project. So we wanted to be very clear about that. We do agree this is an environmentally beneficial move that is supported by the Sierra Club. I have to mark this day down. I'm sure it'll happen again. We also submitted a letter regarding the Monte Sereno project. For the record, I am optimistic, as is Mr. Evans, that we can resolve our concerns with the developer of Monte Sereno, but the letter is submitted for the record, and I'll leave it at that. With respect to staff recommendation, this is on mitigation conditions. This is sort of another first. I have to clear my throat because I actually concur with Mr. Evans' recommended conditions here. He has worked with us this morning and today. What that does essentially is it allows the city and the ACDA to move forward with other parts of this specific plan without bogging it down in a fight over the critical habitat. It is the Sierra Club's, it has and always will be its sincere concern about that habitat impacts Peninsular bighorn sheep, but it does make sense to allow that issue to be resolved when there is a specific development proposal before you. Otherwise, we're going to potentially argue and litigate over something that may or may not occur. And this proposed recommended condition allows that issue to be addressed with the specific project proposal. So we support that aspect of this proposal also. And with that, I will answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brechtel. There may be some after the close of the public hearing.
Thank you.
Maybe.
Commission, Marvin Roos, Monero Smith and Associates, were representing both NatBeck Corporation, which is the owner of the Gantz property, as well as Palm Canyon LLC. We did participate with Nicole and Terra Nova on the preparation of the specific plan amendment. We're in favor of that as well as in favor of the two conditions, and also here to answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Roos. Anybody else that wishes to speak? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Commissioners, you can talk. Tracy, is that right?
Yes. So if we're gonna take it all, I guess I don't quite understand, Doug, and maybe I'm just a dumb doctor, but in A, if we approve the general plan amendment, then it's almost a fait accompli that you're saying that half of the Alturas project is now gonna be designated conservation, or am I wrong? Am I reading that wrong? You're just, and this language, is this language acceptable? I guess I'd like to have Mr. Brechtel tell me that this language is acceptable to the Sierra Club. I'm sure you have one of these. And I guess I'd like to hear Mr. Prieto tell me that this language is acceptable to the ACDA. Since Jing wrote it, I'm sure it's acceptable to the city.
Yes, this is condition 5. Yeah, with respect to 4, the Sierra Club will defer on that one to the parties. And
Okay, yeah.
it acknowledges a need to do the work, and this is really a nuts and bolts of how and who is going to do it. And so we don't really have a position on that particular aspect. With respect to condition 5, this is something that I proposed and went back and forth with, and we do support condition 5. It doesn't guarantee anything with respect to the property west of South Pond Canyon Drive. It's all open space now. It's available for proposals. What this says is if a proposal comes forward and it proposes development that goes into critical habitat, before that occurs, there will be environmental review to address peninsular bighorn sheep issues. It also makes clear that there could be a proposal that doesn't go that far. There's a portion of the property outside of the critical habitat line. It doesn't require environmental review in that instance.
And I guess what I want to maybe know then is, because I can't do it myself, is where the overlay of the new zone is on the Alturas project. Maybe that's where my...
Well, the way I believe this works is the general plan would be changed on Alturas. The specific plan would show, the single-family residential with the density transfer and all that wonderful stuff, but it reserves the ability for the Sierra Club to come back and say the project proposed doesn't work, and have the ability to go through the public hearing process for a project with an environmental review, as opposed to a situation where, they've not objected to it, and we haven't put something in that leaves the debate open for the future. And we understand that if the wrong project is submitted, we'll get objections and we may get sued over that. And I think all parties recognize and agree to that. And I can tell you that several years ago, I made it pretty clear from at least staff's perspective, we would not lose the hotel, golf course, and other development over fighting about 40 or 50 acres of property that we know we're going to have to work very hard to get a development. So this is about what we expected several years ago. We were hoping that Mr. Brechtel not only would support this, but send us a fax from Fiji while he was surfing, but obviously he didn't take a holiday on this one.
Mr. Prieto?
Yeah, Dana Prieto, ACDA Chairman. First, like I said, I'm proud to make history with Brechtel and the Sierra Club on getting their first letter for support of project. Yeah, we're okay with number 4 and 5. We're trying to get through all these issues so that we can get this project underway and bring Palm Springs back to full life, as I'd like to say. But yeah, we are in support of 4 and 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Mr. Grange?
No, I'm just speechless. Glad to see this thing moving. We've got the architectural issues that aren't part of this, so we'll address that later, but I'm tickled pink. This is good.
Right, Doug, there was one thing. Ms. Chris mentioned something about a further mitigation issue related to the requirements, I believe, of the tribal planning commission. Did I misunderstand her, or is that something that's included here, or is that something that needs to be added?
Let me verify.
No, thank you. I don't want to, you make this too, dear.
Mr. Chairman, this actually is something that came from the tribal planning office, and they just would like to add a condition in, and staff would support it, that in conjunction with the required planning application for the Gans property, that's the property west of South Palm Canyon, that it be found in compliance with the tribal HCP at that time, and that would be part of that environmental process. So we could add that in. I think it's covered in number 5 indirectly, but to make it clear, we'll add that one as number 6 if it's okay with the commission. It is tribal reservation property, even though it's owned in fee, and every one of these projects have to be found in compliance with that tribal HCP unless they were previously approved. So that's we're doing that, and this will clarify it. If the commission's comfortable, we'll add that in.
Very good. Well, if no one else is going to step forward, this is my last meeting, and since this is a big one, let me make the motion then to approve this item, and including both parts of the general plan amendment and the revisions to the specific plan, including the added conditions of approval and the additional requested mitigation measure.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Conrad?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz, abstain. Mr. Grant?
Aye.
Mr. Klatchko?
Aye, motion carries 3-0 with 1 sitting abstention and 2 other abstentions. And congratulations to all parties. Thank you. We're almost done. We're almost done.
The history making. Yeah.
Where are we?
Yeah.
All right, the next item is case 5.0953, application for a text amendment to amend the Palm Springs zoning ordinance in regard to section 93.20.04, prohibited signs, section 93.20.09, permitted signs, uptown, downtown, and section 93.20.10, signs, general provisions, to allow creative live theater signs in historic central business district zone and city-owned historic properties, and to allow outdoor display of limited merchandise in the Uptown C1 Retail Business Zoning District and the CBD Central Business District Zones. A staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, I have a conflict.
All right, Mr. Grinch, you're excused.
I have
And-
a business interest in the Uptown District.
Very good. And you're excused from the rest of the meeting since there's no other agenda items other than comments. Larry, you just appeared. Is this one yours?
This one's mine.
Great.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, I'm going to briefly go over the two zoning amendments. One of them is a historic sign amendment, or actually a sign ordinance amendment. The other one is an amendment to the CBD and C1 use for outdoor display. The first one, just briefly, is a sign amendment, and it is specifically directed towards theater uses on historic properties. It's a discretionary review. It's based on the architecture, any other parameter that the Planning Commission feels appropriate. So it's based mostly on aesthetics. The second item is outdoor display. This one is specifically referencing an area that I passed out before you. You should have a copy in front of you tonight. There's 2 colors. The red color represents the Uptown in the C1 district, and that one's referencing an area for outdoor displays directly in front of the store to 32 square feet, 3 items. And in the yellow area is the 300 to 400 block. I have to check the figures. And that one is 1 item, 15 square feet, directly in front of the store. And that reason for that is because the area in that particular neighborhood is pretty small, so we needed to restrict the area. These were amicably decisions based on work with the Uptown Association, the director of Main Street. And that concludes my staff report. Very brief. If there's any questions, Doug may want to add something to that if I left any pertinent information out.
All right, we have a very complete staff report. Any questions before we open the public hearing? This is a public hearing item, and we do have somebody here left. And if you'd like to come forward and address us, please do so. Give us your name and sign the clipboard before you leave.
I do have some photos. Who do I direct them to?
Please hand them to the clerk, and they'll be distributed.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, my name is Arthur Macmillan. I own and operate Macmillan's Resortwear in the 800 block of North Palm Canyon Drive, and I've been operating my store for the past almost 10 years now. And from day one, the Planning Commission has been very helpful to me in allowing me to remain in business and be profitable by allowing me to put outdoor displays of the clothing that I offer for sale in front of my business. And this has been a tremendous help to me. However, the other day, Lawrence Maynez came by my store with a revised ordinance for the uptown area. And after looking this over, it appears that the Planning Commission is still sympathetic to the merchants uptown, realizing that without much foot traffic and the cars driving by as quickly as they do, that having an outdoor display is very beneficial to enabling the stores to remain profitable and doing what the city can to help the businesses stay in business. After looking over this revised ordinance, it states that merchandise will be allowed outside of the stores but must be limited to furniture, antiques, and fine arts. And that applies to many of the businesses in that area. However, me being a clothing store, it drops down to specifically prohibit clothing and mannequins from being displayed in front of a business. And that's what I offer for sale. So that is my concern, and that's why I'm here before you. I would like to be treated fairly like the rest of the merchants uptown, to be allowed to have 3 items in front of my store, as long as it's displayed in a tasteful manner and not blocking the right of way. And that is my request today. I know better than anybody else that if I'm not allowed to have my outdoor displays, the impact it will have on my day-to-day sales, and it's of great concern to me. And I've been successful for 10 years because you've worked with me, and I'd like for that relationship to continue. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Seeing no further comments, we'll close the public hearing. Back to the commission. Ms.
Whatever.
Rance.
Just a comment. I personally would not like to see Mr. McMillan penalized because he doesn't sell fine art or antiques. I understand the process, and I also understand the fact that we don't want to have our uptown area looking like it's a swap meet, and I fully understand that, but I would like to see something maybe crafted for those establishments in the uptown area that are not just for antique stores and paintings, etc. Because I, for one, probably would never have known that that store was there had I not seen the Hawaiian shirt outside. I would have just kept right on driving, and I, for one, really am very strong at buying local versus going out of the valley. So I would really like to see something crafted that would not preclude Mr. McMillan or any other store that would sell clothing in that area.
Mr. Caffrey?
Yeah, I would tend to agree, although it's going to be hard to craft it. Mr. McMillan's store has always been tastefully done, with a very limited, sometimes I see one shirt out there, which has never bothered me, actually. You know, I remember the postcard store that he had out there. What we're trying to eliminate is racks of clothes and sunglass things and all that stuff that used to get out there and litter the sidewalk. Or shirts being hung from the overhangs. I mean, it was just awful. And so your guess is as good as mine on how to craft something like that, unless we do some kind of a special permitting for certain types of businesses in certain zones or something like that.
Doug, we spent a lot of time in study session on this, and we ended up with something similar to what's proposed today, in which we say we don't want those types of things. Can you assist us on that and perhaps revisit that issue a little bit?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as always, the commission makes the recommendations to the council. We try to give you information and, you know, a good starting point. So if the commission's pleasure is to make some adjustments into the staff proposal, we will certainly work with you on it. When we've met with Uptown, we discussed the issue of clothing, and I thought we had consensus from their steering group that they really wanted to limit the material to primarily the arts, antique furniture, you know, and really promote that element. I can tell you when we met with Main Street, which is in the downtown area, they're fearful of allowing any merchandise outside the stores because they know what happens. They know that the guy 3 blocks down doesn't know any difference from McMillan's in this case versus his store, and he may be in a different district. And then we've got to go and say, well, in that district you can have clothing, but in this district you can't. And I tell you that the minute we did an experimental program where we worked with the commission, and it was really a lack of enforcement as opposed to an official program, and we let stuff come out doors in Uptown, we had a problem downtown. The purses, the racks, the things that Mr. Caffrey described were outside of a number of stores, not every store. We still have a lot of merchants that understand the public space and how sensitive that is in a downtown pedestrian retail area. So, I can tell you that from an enforcement standpoint, both in the 300 to 400 block in Uptown, this ordinance is going to be misunderstood by people. If you drive up there now, we've asked for self-enforcement, that they not put things in the public right-of-way. You got stuff on the curb. So they're violating what the business group said they would do themselves to prove to the commission and the council that this isn't going to get out of hand. We put a note in the staff report that if it gets out of hand or stays out of hand, we're going to advise the commission and council reconsider this, because there's a very fine line in downtowns in retailing. The issue of when you're adding to the customer base and lifting the quality of the customer up, and when you have the exact opposite effect and you diminish the quality of the customer, which diminishes the quality of product being sold, and that has a declining effect, and we've been worrying about that for 20 years in this town. How do we push it up? How do we maintain the quality? And there's some criticism right now that maybe we're slipping a little bit on the quality because of the economy, and merchants have to follow the customer. They've got to sell product, and they're going to move with the customer and not wait for the economy to come back and say, well, our product is okay. But we've got some concerns downtown. So if the commission wants to adjust this, my suggestion is that you be very specific under 41AI in how you move clothing up. I can tell you that the mannequin issue was one that I fielded complaints on. Why did the mannequins have bungee cords around the mannequin's neck to hold them up? That it was a very poor statement. It was one that had an image in some customers' minds that wasn't real positive. Code enforcement is going to have a lot of work to do to keep things out of the public right-of-way and keep it down to 3. So if you don't define it fairly closely and you allow mannequins, code enforcement people will not differentiate between a good and a bad mannequin, a good and a bad pose. And, you could have a freedom of expression that could be quite different. Now, we did add something to this ordinance that we felt we just have to do. Originally, this was to be a performance-driven ordinance where we don't issue permits. We just let them do it, and if they violate it, we write a citation, and that they were going to self-enforce it. I don't think that would work. So what we did was we said these would be subject to a minor architectural approval. Now, we're going to have business owners that won't want to pay, a little bit over $100 in fee. They won't want to give us a site diagram, and they won't want to give us representations of what they're going to put out. But unless we approve it, code enforcement people are just going to go by and say, it's close, and drive on by. So we did add that as an additional regulation. So if you move clothing up, technically, you could also put a provision in that we need to review how it's displayed. But I'd be concerned about mannequins. We had one in the downtown, outside of a restaurant that had its leg up that made customers walk around it. Well, they thought it was a great way to slow people down in front of the restaurant. It was a hazard. And I'm sure to that business owner it was cute. But at night, it really was unsafe. So mannequins, I'll just tell you, I can't guarantee you what you might get, and we're not going to be able to control what type of mannequin if you allow mannequins. There may be a way to do a display rack with a different, more creative name, but I'd have to sit with Larry and come up with ideas. Maybe you have some ideas for us.
Diane, did you have a comment?
I do have a comment. What about eliminate the mannequin, but have, for example, a rattan chair or something that shows that shirt or shows that dress or whatever it is without it being on a mannequin? It can have sticks and whatever. I mean, it could be like a scarecrow, absolutely, but as long as it's not a mannequin. I think we could get around the mannequin issue because I can see, and I know what Doug is talking about with that restaurant situation, and I can see the, mannequin, or I can see the big balloon that blows up into a person or whatever it is, and I can see where it can totally get out of hand. But I would certainly hate to see a certain percentage of business owners in the uptown area being penalized for what they sell.
What if you limited it to clothing-only stores?
And what if you had only 3 items and it was subject to the permit and director's approval?
Because then you get rid of all the curio t-shirt shops.
Yeah.
And that's really who were the violators, if I remember correctly.
If you start cutting it to the quality of clothing product.
No, I didn't say quality. I said clothing-only stores.
Yeah, I think you're going to cut it.
That are in that uptown area.
I think you'll cut it fine enough that we'd have a hard time defining that and being able to enforce it.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you're still issuing the permit.
Yeah, we're still issuing the permit, so what you may want to do is if you left mannequins in, I would define a mannequin, and we'll put it in the council report that that's a traditional display mannequin. If somebody comes in with a frame, whether it's metal or something, still gives the image. It's a little more artful. You could really, maybe have a really nice frame, but we got to be real careful, in my opinion, on on the definition of using mannequins.
On the photographs that we have here that Mr. McMillan sent in, he has, mannequins that are basically just torso, just to give some form and fill out the shirt. And if you tried to display it without some sort of structure, it's just going to blow away. And this is not a bad way to do it if you're going to allow it.
Can I?
How about new clothing only stores?
No full head to toe mannequins. They have to be only torso only. I mean,
Starting to cut hairs, though.
Yeah,
I'll tell
Mr.
you.
Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Schoenberg?
We spent a lot of time on this at our study session. I said at that time that I didn't think that displaying clothing was appropriate, and I think that it's unmanageable. And Mr. McMillan is a responsible businessman, and I wouldn't be concerned about his doing this in a tasteful way. He's done it for years. But I just don't know how you're going to not open up our downtown to what we don't want down there. And I just don't know how you're going to draw these lines. And I said the same thing at the study session, and I feel the same way now. I mean, we always have these situations where we have difficult decisions where there are people who are going to be affected by what we do in an adverse way that we don't feel good about. But you can't make special exceptions, and I don't want to see clothing displayed downtown. I don't think it's appropriate for what we're trying to achieve with our downtown, and I don't see how you're going to draw lines as to what one mannequin looks like versus another mannequin. My sympathies go out to Mr. McMillan, and I would like to find some way to accommodate his special situation, but I just don't see how we can do it without getting ourselves into a mess.
Conrad?
And I want to open up a whole other can of worms, and I apologize because I was only at one of the 2 study sessions that dealt with this, but live theater signs, I personally don't think that we want to have a bunch of people watching a TV monitor screen on Palm Canyon. And I'm not particularly in favor of the blinky signs and the Times Square signs either. And while I do sympathize with trying to help the theaters attract patrons, I personally object to this number 7, and I guess I'd like to hear some of the discussion that went on at the study session for why the rest of the commission would think that it's appropriate, particularly on our historic buildings, and if it isn't just in response to trying to accommodate the one sign that's already there in violation of the current sign ordinance.
My recollection is that it is there permitted, is it not?
I believe the sign that's being referred to with the television that was in during the season, that was not permitted.
Was not permitted.
The TV appeared for the season, and for the summer season is gone.
I mean, I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I would beseech you that I don't think it is what we're looking for. I don't think we want to have a Times Square, Broadway sort of feeling to our downtown. I mean, there's little left of the village as it is. I can't see the benefit of having, I guess I can see you can show parts of the show, but there seems, I don't care how toned down the excessively bright or obtrusive passing, light is. I think it's going to do that, and I don't think we should have it.
Catherine?
I agree.
Yeah.
Really. They could do it with live people. Let them out there in costume. That'd be better.
That would be very creative. So I personally can't support this if it includes 7.
Well, clearly, it looks like Planning Commission has more work to do.
One thing, I read this thing, but I couldn't, and we're kind of now on both issues, and I think they're separate issues, but I had a hard time visualizing and figuring out in my mind what live theater signs are. What are they talking about?
Well, I don't know who they are, but Larry and I have been looking at this, and we've been talking to Jerry Ogburn about it. And if Jerry's watching, I hope he feels better today, because I think he visited the dentist for one of those root canal type things, so that's why he's not here. When we looked at the Plaza Theater a while back, and the commission was actively involved in the different types of signs to try and create the image and impression that particular business owner was trying to achieve, and you ultimately approved a sign in the public right-of-way, and that would fit under this proposed ordinance. It would give a clear legislative authority, even though the sign that you approved was approvable under the sign program provision, in the CBD. So what we did was we said, let's take a look at, theaters, because they do generate a tremendous amount of foot traffic and activity. There's no other business in the downtown that brings in the type of activity that the Follies do. And whether the people get on and off a bus for that theater day, we get a lot of repeat business where people come down for the day because they realize it's quite enjoyable. The Palm Canyon Theater is in a location that they have trouble attracting attention. So they have almost the opposite problem that the Follies do. The Follies, to some degree, you know where it is. They've got a big show. You can see it. You know it's there, and they've got a great following. The Palm Canyon Theater up at Francis Stevens Park might be very successful if they had the ability to catch one's attention a little bit more. So we looked at that one. So we've really tried to take a look at how we might tailor this as tightly as we could to the theaters that we think are real good for the community. The way we've crafted the ordinance, and we
Well, Doug, let me focus my question a little more. We're talking about two locations, are we not? Or are there more locations? We're talking about the plaza, and we're talking about Francis Stevens Park.
Desert Museum technically would also fall into the CBD and have that ability. So in theory, we could do a sign program for them, and they're, particularly with the mall in its current condition, they need help.
Yeah, but anything that they would want to do in the way of signage at those locations would have to come back for specific approval, correct? I mean, it would have to meet these overall criteria that are set here, but even if it has to come for approval.
Yeah, we crafted this particular provision for the live theaters that it has to come to the Planning Commission.
Right, and so if we don't like it, we just say no.
And it allows them to decide if they change it or they go
Right.
talk to the council.
Right.
It sets up
So,
an
I mean,
administrative procedure.
I wasn't too bothered by this because I thought that we're talking about 2 or 3 locations. We've set forth some criteria that we expect them to meet before they even bring it to us, but it still has to go through the Planning Commission before it's approved. If we don't like it, we can simply say no.
But I would submit that it's an entitlement that will be used, and that the current, or the now not currently there, but was there all-season sign, would have been approved, or would have met these criteria, and I think that it's inappropriate still. And I
Well,
don't know if you saw it.
Even if it meets the criteria, we can say no.
Right, but you've already.
But then they'll go to the
basically told them
council,
that they-
you've already told them that they can do it, and they go to the council and it says right here that they can do it. Just because we don't like it, and I'm saying, I guess that if we don't like it and we think it's philosophically wrong for our downtown, then now's the time to strike it, rather than create the entitlement and then be fighting with people about the particulars and the aesthetic of it. And I am so sympathetic to the theaters, and the Follies has done just fine without it. And you can make the argument for the Palm Canyon Theater, and I'm not sure that the ticker tape thing is the solution. And I'm not a marketer, but maybe they need to work in conjunction with the marketing of the Follies. but to me, philosophically, it's the wrong thing for our downtown.
Now, what I have little memory of this actual study session, other than I know we had talked also about the parking structure having little kiosk, or I don't know if kiosk was the right word, but little display areas originally that we would put some sort of stuff in that would be more like this, I would think, of this nature, that wouldn't be objectionable to me on Indian, but would be on Palm Canyon.
Doug, maybe I understand Tracy's concern. By this, are we creating an entitlement? If somebody came in and said, well, look, my sign that I'm proposing is compatible with the historic nature of this building and is not very bright, and so on and so on. Would it still be within our discretion to say we don't like it and we're not going to approve it? And if you want to appeal to council, you can.
Well, clearly, anytime you have enabling legislation that allows somebody to make the proposal, they have to come through the criteria and in their own minds.
Right.
And with an expectation they can convince you that it doesn't alter the historic character of the structure. If you disagree, that's a finding for denial.
Right. I mean,
and if you go through these, you could, if you had something that you thought was inappropriate, I can tell you I have a complaint from the restaurant at the plaza, that they didn't want their customers to listen to the TV replay over and over. And we worked with the theater to adjust the volume, and the complaint went away, but the image was still there. The sign would probably have looked better with a flat screen TV. It just would have had a better feel to it. But every one of these criteria you can use as a reason for denial if you're uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, but I have to agree with what Tracy said. If you're philosophically opposed to it, then you might as well say it. If the people come in and they make their best effort, and you say, well, you're not going to please us no matter what you do, they're going to say, well, why did you invite us to even participate in this program? So, I think you've got to make a decision. Either this is something you think is okay, or it's not okay. And if it's not, don't put it in with any criteria. Diane?
I remember when I think I was on the planning commission when the sign for the senior center was first brought up. And I will tell you, even to this day, that as far as I'm concerned, that senior center sign does not bring one person to become a member of the senior center. It's strictly an advertising gimmick that we all got persuaded into, as far as I'm concerned. It's something to watch when you're at the signal at the corner and you got to wait for the signal to change. But I'm surprised that a small reader board has not been brought up to the planning department for something downtown as far as any of these theaters are concerned. And I could honestly see that happening. It's just like our approving those signs for the couple of motels here in town, and all of a sudden you drive by one day and they're advertising they need housekeeping or they need to rent something, and there's just so many hours in the day for code enforcement, and I'm sure that they're stretched very, very thin right now, and I would certainly hate to put something else on the table for code enforcement that is not going to be able to be enforceable.
Well, I'm not seeing a clear consensus, and I hate to end on indecision, but maybe Mr. Caffrey's suggestion is that we've got two different issues here, one having to do with the display of merchandise and one having to do with this particular sign. And if there is no clear consensus here, then perhaps this is something that should be revisited. And I hate to, it's not like you don't have enough to do and that there's plenty of room on study session times, but maybe this does need some further thought, unless you have a clear thought here.
Well, I mean,
I'm getting some negative feeling about the electrical sign with a mixed feeling, but I'm also not getting a clear consensus on the other one. And I know we did spend a lot of time, with all deference to Mr. McMillan, we spent a lot of time coming up with what's in front of us here that's particularly excluded.
well, if you want to count votes, I would, I agree with Mr. Schoenberger when it comes to clothing, even though it's painful for, Mr. McMillan. I think that we had a consensus at the study session regarding
We
clothing.
did.
So, I don't know if you're counting votes, Mr. Chairman, but to me, I
Well,
think
we can make a motion. I mean, somebody make a
Yeah,
motion.
why don't you go ahead?
Okay, well,
You
here,
wanna do it, John?
I make a motion that, to approve case number 5.093, but strike number 7, which is the condition for live theater signs. And we'll defer back to the previous thing that it, number 1, it prohibits rotating, moving, flashing, reflecting, prismatic, or blinking signs, and you'd have to delete or section 93.20.10, because there is no section there anymore.
Is there a second?
My
to that?
motion.
I'll second that, just for the sake of getting it on. Okay. And that means that with regard to the outdoor display, it's consistent with what we decided at the study session, where we don't have clothes, we don't have mannequins. And with regard to the other part, this is not something that we've ever really come to a conclusion of, that we do not have the modification to the existing signs, even for our historic theaters. Any other comments? Let's have a-
So we're voting to approve the amendment that deals with the outdoor display, but we are voting to not approve the amendment that deals with the live theater.
television, right.
Well, I mean, in this, I guess, I can be more conciliatory with regard to the clothing, but this would be the, guess we'll see how it falls.
A roll call vote, please, Michelle.
Ms. Conrad?
Aye.
Ms. Morantz?
No.
Mr. Schoenberger?
No.
Mr. Caffrey?
No.
Mr. Klatchko?
Aye. Motion fails, 3-2.
So make a motion that has to do with clothing.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve both text amendments. And so that is, we would approve both amendments, that allowing, or the text amendment regarding the outdoor displays, and that we would also approve and allow the live theaters to present to the commission a sign, or whatever you want to call it, that falls within the criteria of the proposed amendment.
So this means no clothing, but you can have creative theater signs.
Correct.
Is there a second?
We need to get out of here. That's terrible.
Dies for lack of a second.
Dies for lack of a second.
Okay, I'll make a motion.
Why don't you make a motion to table this?
I'm going to say that this goes back to Planning Commission study session for further discussion and further development.
Mr., before we even ask for a second, do you want to comment, Mr.?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, would it be the commission's pleasure to continue the public hearing? So you have a study session, then you come back and have a meeting, and you
I
could
think that
put
would be
multiple
wise.
motions on the floor and see how they go with the new commission?
Sure.
I think that would be wise.
You do? Well, I
And
think
fun.
I could make a motion that we approve case number 5.093, allowing for, striking number 7, and allowing for 3 items of clothing with mannequin body, torsos only.
No heads.
No heads, no legs, no arms.
We have
Well,
Mr.
we don't
Mr.
have my
Caffrey's motion, and before you can make another motion, let's just see if anybody will second that motion. As I understand, your motion is continue the public hearing,
Have a study session in
have a
between.
study session in between, and then come back at the next regularly scheduled
He's not gonna be here, what is he
commission.
here?
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay.
Painful.
Motion by Mr. Caffrey, second by Mr. Schoenberger. Roll call vote, please, Michelle.
Ms. Conrad?
No.
Ms. Morantz?
No.
Mr. Schoenberger?
Aye.
And Mr. Caffrey?
Aye.
And Mr. Klatchko?
Aye.
There's a way to end
Those
it.
two aren't gonna be here. We might have some
Mr.
new
Chairman,
blood
if
better
I
Yes,
could
Mr.
ask
Evans.
Rick in the control room, you might want to mark the tape, because we're going to have to run this tape. And for this item, for our new planning commissioner, we have one commissioner in the
We only have
audience,
one
so
here.
you won't have to listen, but Commissioner Wright will have to listen to this item to get back up to speed, and so will Commissioner Matthews.
Very good, very good. That's fine. We'll see. Mr. Hognagle been very diligent in attending these meetings. Mr. Wright is going to have to learn that he's going to have to be here late.
Sometimes.
And you're still alive, Mr. McMillan.
You're still alive, but
I suggest you come to the study session if it meets your time schedule and voice your concerns.
That'll be July 2nd at 3 in the
July
afternoon.
2nd, next week.
Probably at 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
Got a pretty good agenda for you.
I'm glad my last motion didn't pass, but I can say.
Now it's longer, you can forget it.
All right. Commission's work program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to have Larry give you a quick update on the general plan. We have a general plan subcommittee in place, full complement, and we have a date in mind, and Larry will give you a very quick update on that.
In fact, we do have a date, Monday, June 30th at 11 o'clock. It's about an hour. We hand delivered packets. We have our first assignment for the committee. I have 3 packets here for John, and Jerry, who is not here.
Okay.
Is he outside waiting for us?
He's gone,
Oh, he
but
left
we'll
today?
see him.
Okay.
We'll see him later.
Okay. And, so this is a kickoff meeting. I'm looking forward to it. I went around and delivered the packets and met most of the 23 members. Interesting group. It's well diverse. They're come recommended. There's a handful that volunteered. Those were probably from the residential section of this committee. And I look forward to working closely with them and getting their ideas and sharing them with you. And that concludes that item.
Mr. Chairman, these are, meetings open to the public. We'll post the agenda here at City Hall. So anybody that wants to come and watch the committee do their work, they certainly can. And as with most things we do in Palm Springs, if people want to participate, I'm sure the committee, at the end of formalizing how they want to do their business, will allow people to participate. We're looking forward to this, and just as a quick comment, this is not a committee that was, formed by staff or the Planning Commission or the council. Community groups or neighborhood groups volunteered people. So it really is a community-generated steering committee, and we wanted to try and keep it from becoming an appointed group, and we kept council apprised as we went through this in the commission. So it's really a community group that all we did was go out there and say, hey, you have a group, we think we need somebody from your group to participate. So it's a little bit different process, and I think we've got a good group to work with. I'm looking forward to it.
Very good. We're looking forward to results. And it's a lot of work, just starting. City council actions.
Mr. Chairman, the council is not having a meeting tonight due to a lack of quorum. That's my update.
Right. Commission staff reports, requests. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, I do not have any specific requests or reports for you, other than we want to thank Commissioner Caffrey and Chairman Klatchko. You've served us well. I can tell you the staff, for as long as I've worked for the city, has always been the benefit of outstanding planning commissioners. And you two have done a great job. We appreciate you making us work hard, and you have. And that's how the community makes itself very, very strong. and we thank you very much for your support, and thank you again.
Hear, hear.
Commissioners, any comments?
I just would like to make a personal comment. I have really enjoyed working with both Phil and John. I think they have been outstanding commissioners. I learned a lot from both of them in the years that I've been on the commission, and I think we owe them a real debt of gratitude for their hard work and dedication for 6 years on this commission.
Well, I could add my accolades. It's been a pleasure to learn how to be a planning commissioner from the two of you, and we will miss you sorely.
You better stay home and watch us because, you only have to stay off a year and then you can reapply again. You know that, don't you? Okay. But it's real, that's right. You see what happens, yes. But it has really been a pleasure working with both of you, both times.
John?
Well, thank you. I think today's public hearings pretty much said it all about staff. This hearing in particular had more good things to say about planning than I've ever heard in one meeting, and I think that's just an outstanding statement for our staff that I've been working with for 6 years. It's been wonderful. You guys have been great.
Yeah, I'd also like to say thank you very much. I felt it's really been a privilege to be on the Planning Commission, and I've learned a lot here too. And I think that's part of having a citizen commission and citizen participation. You come in bringing whatever knowledge you have, but you learn in the process. And I know all along the way, each year, and it's not that I didn't learn anything this year, the 6th year, each year you learn more and more, and I also would like to thank staff, and particularly you, Doug. I remember my first orientation before coming to a commission in which we sat down, and one thing I always remembered, you said, if you have a question, ask it, and chances are somebody else is thinking of the same question, or after they hear the question, wish they would have asked that, and I've always tried to do that, and as I've listened to my other commissioners, I really have appreciated all of the comments and all of the thoughts and all the questions that they've put forth. And also thank all the commissioners. It's really been a pleasure getting to know everybody and doing that as well. If there's nothing further then, meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
So where are we going?